Oh, I have to sneeze. I have to sneeze. Never mind. No, I don't. How's it going, everyone? Come on. I have to turn off an alarm. How's it going, everyone? We're here with TNO. The person who usually helps me promote the TNO streams is away. So, we're not gonna... This might be a bit of a quieter TNO stream. But we are gonna be finishing Heart tonight. We are gonna be finishing good old Philly Fart, assuming the game doesn't fucking crash and kill itself. Which hopefully it doesn't. I had to... A new version of TNO came out between this time and the last time we played it. So I had to install an old version. And I've never manually installed a Hearthstone 4 mod before. So, here we go. Oh yeah, we are gonna be trying to do a Chep no divorce run. We are trying to avoid Chep's divorce. But listen, when you have the opportunity to put like the most divorced president maybe ever in your Twitch title, you fucking take it. You seize that opportunity.
Germany calling. Germany calling. It seems that the famous British resolve is but a distant memory. The inevitable collapse of your defenses.
Yeah, no, hope everyone's doing good tonight. This is just gonna be a reading stream tonight. Which is good, because, I let a friend show me some of the, stuff in Pokemon Rejuvenation's bad ending. Because I knew there was no way in hell I was gonna finish that. I'm gonna be able to do that in time for the spoiler embargo to stop for Rejuve. And dude, I am fucking insane right now. I won't say anything in the interest of, keeping things spoiler-free. Oh. Well, thankfully, you don't have to read. I'll be reading for you. But yeah, no, well, have you seen my long-ass Tumblr post then? You don't even have context for it, I don't think. Play Pokemon Rejuvenation. Gonna prepare our resignation. Halfway reading it. Dude, like, please don't put anything about it in here. Like, you can reply to the Tumblr post if you do have anything to say. Like, dude. I fucking, like, oh my god. Twilight. He looked over the statement once, twice, 3 times. Part of him wanted there to be something wrong. Some catastrophic mistake, some reason to delay standing before the nation and reading out the contents of that page. But there was none. It was perfect, so he had to face it. Tomorrow, he would make a speech announcing his intention to resign the presidency of the United States. The first to do that since Nixon. The first to do so since Nixon. Okay, yeah, but that's like, what, a couple years, really? Not even a decade. These were his last days as leader of the free world. He wasn't ready. There was so much he wanted to do. He wanted to serve out the rest of his term. He wanted to see the legacy of bigotry stomped out for good. He wanted to see all Americans living happily together in a country that truly lived up to its promise. He wanted to see the work of so many, Chep and Jane and Jean and George and Henry, brought to fruition. He wanted to leave the White House on January 20th, 1977, as a president who had won. He wanted to see his children grow and become people he'd raised them to be. He wanted to walk each of his girls down the aisle, to be there for his boys when the time came to teach them how to be men. He wanted to grow old with Jane and tell stories to his grandchildren as they played on his knee. He wanted to die at a ripe old age surrounded by those he loved. Fuck, it wasn't fair! He wanted to spend the end of his presidency laughing with friends and family, drink in hand and reflecting on all they'd accomplished. But instead he was sitting alone, a tear streaming down his face, and there was only one thought going through his head. Why? I mean, no, he didn't. Like, Kissinger was in charge of detente, and we didn't get to do that time because we won all of the proxy conflicts so goddamn hard. Damn. We're funding this shit. I have not done the AmeriCard now. Truthfully, we have like a year. We could probably do the AmeriCard. Damn. Yeah, no, the national education. We can absolutely do the AmeriCard if you want. Nope. Proud of saving. AmeriCard's a little funny, so. The democracy mobile. Let's go. It's a goofy concept. Like, one of my favorite things, actually, I don't think I'm allowed to say this, never mind. There. Listen, the Volkswagen wishes it was the fucking German AmeriCard, alright? We're gonna get the goddamn AmeriCard on the roads, on the highways, which are being completed, by the way. Freedom. True, true. You're right. Imagine for a moment an America not too dissimilar from the present, connected by layers of linkage, curated courtesy of a responsive, ever-improving infrastructure network. This America was possible to go anywhere at any time and only required time, a bit of walking, and a fare to keep the lights on. This transportation dreamland runs trains every 5 minutes, connecting stations and areas of public interest by bus lines at an even greater frequency, along roadways filled with an affordable automobiles to serve the web's gaps. Investment in public transportation infrastructure is a payment towards American accessibility and delivers on the promise that the United States should be enjoyed by all citizens. At least that's the idea, President Philip Hart stated, ending his impromptu lecture with a curt gesture. The speech's only audience, Vice President Chet Morrison, feigned applause but with a chuckle before levying his response, barely telegraphing. My only concern would be the books before the president slumped loudly back into his chair. After a brief, pregnant pause, the vice president smirked and prodded in a low voice. You don't think Secretary Jacobs has bugged the office, do you? No, the president replied. No, replied the president, who smiled despite rolling his eyes. Morrison continued. And what's the problem with some budget talk between us? If you're concerned about what's cut, take it out of our hands. Why not pull it? See what the people want. Give us some breathing room. Seemed reasonable enough, though Hart. Thought Hart, and he leaned forward to grab the desk phone. Put me through to the Census Bureau. Nader's Raider spotted. Nader's Raider spotted. Spoilers. I don't know if I can. If you're just a real asshole, if you are a real asshole, then things can happen. Wait, this fucking car in this. Yeah, no, it's great. It goes to. Well, this is Philip Hart's tree, and I highly recommend Philip Hart. Here's a hey Propnik, welcome to the chat. You followed a little while ago. I'm happy to see people who followed in chat. I'm trying to remember, did you follow during the Rejuve stream or it was 3 days ago? So yesterday was Rejuve. 2 days ago was no RFK. No Hart. Do like one term of RFK or Wallace, and then he's the Hart's the guy who replaced Glenn. Yeah, no worries, no worries. It can be a little complicated sometimes, but yeah. Heart, he has cancer. I love apathy. I love apathy. We will make the AmeriCar. We will make the AmeriCar. Philip Hart's dying wish. Make the AmeriCar. It is my promise to you, chat room. We will bring the AmeriCar. Building prisons, because that's what I need to. Thousands of phone calls and an untold number of postage-paid response forms later, the Census Bureau had successfully completed its most extensive non-census survey of Americans to date, with remarkable efficiency to boot. Respondents answered questions ranging from their satisfaction with government transportation services to their priorities for future infrastructure. After weeks of waiting, the results were assembled into neat, columned rows and forwarded as a condensed teletype report to the White House. Damn, I'm sorry. Members of the Hart administration's unofficial transportation task group sat around a folding table in the Oval Office, each transfixed on the loose, stapled packet of paper in silence. Suddenly, a shrill whistle let loose from Vice President Morrison's lips. President Hart, Secretary Jacobs, and Secretary Monterey quickly turned to attention. You see this? The Vice President scoffed in disbelief, tossing the papers. Mr. President, you could bust GM, Ford, and Chevrolet tomorrow, and they'd love you for it. What are you thinking, a people's car? Shep leaned into the joke, expecting laughter from at least the president, but instead Phil's Hart brow arched the suggestion. A generic, all-purpose, government-subsidized automobile? Not since wartime had the government imagined such an ambitious production scheme. As if by a vision of his future, Hart could hear the deafening jeers of socialism and fascism reverberating through the Senate hall. You'd all see American breadwinner finally being able to afford a family vehicle and enjoy all the blessings of personal mobility. The gravity of his suggestion dawned on the vice president. Shep was suddenly beside himself. Mr. President, you can't be serious. It was a joke! More cars are bad for urban congestion, chimed Secretary Jacobs, peering down at her copy of the report. But this could kickstart economic growth in the cities? Sure, the investment's front-loaded, but it's good policy. She smiled at Shep, who looked at the president meekly, but it was no use. President Hart had been inspired. Because it was written like that in the, I know it's pronounced Chevrolet, but in the event, it was written explicitly that it was pronounced as Chevrolet. Yep. Hope you enjoy election GUIs, buddy, cause you're in one. The fuck is... it's one of those things that hits you if you walk in the middle of the street. Oh, where's my election GUI, and buddy, I'm about to get a 50-state sweep. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. Part of me wants to do TNO again, but like I think I might want to take a bit of a break before doing another TNO stream. You know. Really intense. So, we're forcing people to drive sedans now. Yeah, no, I've been on this playthrough since last month. Like, since, like, the day after the update dropped, I did this. I started this playthrough, and we're just now finishing it. Granted, you know, Hearts America is, like, the longest path in the mod, I think. No, that's exactly the kind of brouhaha we're trying to avoid. The commission is very clear. It's a public-private partnership. I'm telling you what the average voter is going to hear when they move forward. There'll be all kinds of pearl clutching over government overreach and communist infiltration from the likes of Goldwater. President Hart moved his glasses and sighed, looking bleary-eyed around the conference room of the old executive office building. He and Vice President Morrison had been reviewing the report published by Hart's Automotive Commission. It intended to be a small study on how to develop ideas on how to improve highway safety or encourage better fuel efficiency standards. Instead, hidden among the typical bureaucratese, Hart's experts had sent him a bomb. Request that the federal government support the construction of a standard, generic car brand. When he first skimmed the executive summary, he laughed. It was an outlandish idea. Then he read the damn report. God help him, it actually made sense. There were charts showing the cost of cars increasing over time. There were interviews with families and studies from transportation experts at Harvard. Hart put his glasses back on. We're moving forward with this. I know it's going to be a mess, but there's a real need here and need to address. Just tell which company's least likely to make this blow up in our faces. I know it's Ruther, but you know his thoughts on manufacturers. Shep frowned, holding back skepticism. Well, GM's got quality, if nothing else. Well, let's make a quality car, if we can. What are you planning, sir? Please stop messaging me. Spear. I wanted to do like the detente with Japan, but we won too hard in the proxies earlier, so spet. Yeah, no, that's the bad spear. Kaiser spet. Okay, listen. There's the spear when he gets, like, puppeted. James Roach liked to consider himself a fundamentally fair and decent man. He listened to all sides, he, like John D. Rockefeller, believed in corporate responsibility. He prided himself on being a forward thinker in the industry, often defied my caution above all else. Still, the files sitting on his desk gave him pause. The president wants us to manufacture a generic automobile that will undermine our standard line. It would appear that way, said Pete Estes. The GM executive looked tight and uncomfortable in his pinstripe suit. He gave the documents on the desk an uneasy look. Looked like one might have bombed. Truth be told, I thought it was a joke at first. It would appear that way. He wouldn't be the first. Rourke leafed through the manila folder containing charts and projections. It's the kind of material that the old statistician loved to see. Earlier in the day, he'd gone through the proposal himself and assessed everything the federal government's projections for its so-called AmeriCar. Everything lined up, but still, the proposal left him uneasy. GM's reputation had yet to recover after Ralph Nader accused its cars of being unsafe. Thought of having to manage another PR crisis tied his stomach in knots. If nothing else, the numbers are good. We had them checked 3 times, and Hart's people don't seem entirely off base. There's demand for a consumer car, and it could make money, provided they don't fumble the launch. I'm gonna save here. Yeah, true. Hart's a hardcore Marxist. I personally believe in Marxist, Leninist, hardest thought. Push GM for more, please. Unless you reject, in which case I will reload my save. Whoops. Whoops, I've slipped and I've had to reload my save because something horrible happened. Yeah, my game, guys, it's so crazy. My game crashed right after I got that event that would say things got worse for Hart. It's crazy, man. It's crazy how that happened. You know? Like, I just don't know what happened. It's crazy how unstable, like, this new update is, you know? I blame the hotfix. It's so crazy what just happened, man. This should be visible. Don't worry, I'll audit the DMV when I can. I'm doing the fine clockwork first. 14, 28. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold on. Yeah. Why does Philip Hart, the largest of the federal employees, simply not eat the other? Oh boy, I get to research stuff. This is so useful, guys. Hello, OP Dominable. We're engaging in fascism in the United States. We're making the Americar. The Americar will be real in 5. I know what you want, but there is no... Which one should I do first? One last touch, or... Wait, tell me where it is. Hello, welcome to the chat, Miss Celeste. Miss Celeste. TNO. Fun. I don't see no button to kill Kissinger. The administration is dealing with President Hart's terminal cancer. One by one. Yeah, sure, buddy. Please. Give us the Americar. Please don't let the Americar flop. The man has cancer. Lay off. Hello there. I don't think that's how cancer works. You say that, I just don't think that's how cancer works. Americar, please? Please? Don't flop. We have time. Okay, listen. Listen. Hold on. Let me go over. Does this look like I failed the channel crisis, buddy? I may have, you know, done some stuff. Well, I had to replay it because an update fucked my save, one time. And, well... Jeff Morrison had always been so good with the press. It was one quality he prided himself on. It only made sense when Phillips entered the GM's headquarters in Detroit to celebrate the launch of the new Americar Delta 88. But was neither Philip nor Jeff himself had expected Zaza to join him. He gave her a nervous look as he stepped towards the car. Now I've come together with the good folks at GM to give you a car that feels like it's part of the family. With a remastering of its familiar, much beloved old Oldsmobile model, the America Delta 88 gives consumers affordability and comfort, said Shep, hoping the enthusiasm could hide the blandly traditionalist car. The 88's recognizable shape and styling builds on what Americans already love. Is the 88 for how much it costs or how many years it's been on the market, darling? There was a shocked guffaw from among the reporters. Chep turned to see his wife Zaza walking toward him. The cameras and the cameras, her heels clicking against the floor until she was right beside him, peering theatrically into the Americar's window. There were snaps as cameras as she tissed. Very traditional, very traditional. Ah, these little pillows in the upholstery. They remind me of my grandmother in Hungary. More laughter. I'm sure the good people at GM have made sure it's very comfortable for all the little old ladies of America. It's simply marvelous to have a car just for them. Shep forced himself to smile. It certainly ranks top in comfort. But the damage was done. Shep forced himself through the press conference, ignoring the obvious anger from GM CEO James Roque and Zaza's cat-like amusement. If nothing else, he told himself, the Americar would have no shortage of press coverage. What's wrong with old ladies anyway? Hey. We've done better, folks. Lady Zaza. I mean, we haven't gotten an event that says the Americar stinks. Stinks completely, that is. So, we call it a success. Maybe I should have gone with Ford. I love alternative energy, yum. Like this post to eat a nuclear reactor. Ugh. We could be doing better. Feed them cats. Oh, rats. Less than 100 days left in the heart presidency. Folks, strap in. Get comfortable. But yeah, no, how's everyone doing tonight? Usually, I'd love to introduce a topic of conversation, but like, dude, I've been playing like Pokemon Rejuvenation. Well, I've been watching my friend play like the bad ending Pokemon Rejuvenation, which is a very fun Pokemon fan game that I play on stream actually, and we'll be scheduling like, you know, solid half my streams next week are probably going to be Rejuve. But yeah, no, so all my thoughts are taken up by that. For you. Yeah, I think he does. I think he does. Every American gets heart palpitations when heart goes away. When heart goes bye-bye. Oh, nice. What movie are you gonna be seeing? If you'd be willing to share. Oh, nice. I've heard good things about the FNAF movie, honestly. That movie was lame. Damn. Damning criticism with Doctor Sparkabelle chat. Well, what I heard was that it's fun for what it is, which is just, if you like FNAF, the game, then, you know, probably would enjoy the, FNAF the movie. 74 days. Yeah, I figure it's not scary because it's the FNAF movie, and FNAF is for children, honestly. Like, not as like an insult, like, oh, only babies like FNAF. Like, FNAF is a children's franchise. Let's not kid ourselves. It's got, like, you know, death and murder and all the scary stuff, but like, it is a children's franchise at the end of the day. Fair, yeah. They all die? Well, you know how it is. Show me the economy. Yeah, no, I hope you enjoy the FNAF movie, even if for some folks this isn't exactly lighting their world on fire. Order. On. I know they got that map pad in the movie. That's probably for the least. Garden of Ban movie. Yes! The Garden of Ban movie will be real. Garden of Ban bros, we're back! Garden of Ban bros. Sign the Wave 2 of the URI. Production of the Urban Renewal Expansion Act. Up until now, the Urban Renewal Initiative has not even reached a fraction of America's urban population. Pilot programs established by the Hart administration have shown promising results. It is now time to implement the president's agenda across the nation. The Urban Renewal Expansion Act will drastically expand the scale and budget of the initiative, enrolling all incorporated municipalities in the United States. The lion's share of urban renewal efforts shall be directed at America's biggest megalopoli: New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, and St. Louis. These were once beating heart of American civilization, and under Hart's watch, they shall become so again. Naturally, the act has become public enemy number one for the president's opponents. Millions of voters in white suburbia view his efforts with suspicion. Many of these senators in the NPP's Nationalist Caucus have stoked these fears for their own political gain. The president has marshaled much of his political capital in the Senate, as much of his political capital in the Senate as he is able to, reaching out to both the RDC and progressive members of the NPP in order to get the bill through the door. The stakes cannot be higher, for a defeat here could bring President Hart's entire agenda crashing to the ground. And it's gonna pass. I like the big bear, hell yeah. Pretty fast bear. Can we play? Just getting to this, can we play Garten of Ban on stream next week? I don't know, is Garten of Ban free? If so, we have time after night. Fuck, I might play it tonight. My friends. Fuck, I hope soon. I like the first Captain Underpants movie. After the long, tense roll call, the verdict has emerged from the Senate. The Urban Renewal Expansion Act has passed. Tears have erupted among the Capitol crowd that has gathered outside the Capitol as news has spread throughout the nation. No longer will the Hart administration's Urban Renewal Initiative be just another dream confined to a few pilot programs, but shall now encompass every municipality in the nation. The long-suffering inhabitants of America's inner cities now have a bright future to look forward to. As renewal, decades of urban planning and policy shall be rewritten. Urban renewal is coming, whether the president's opponents like it or not. And just like it all, they shall, for the bill's passage has already provoked an uproar among the self-appointed representatives of Middle America. The NPP's demagogues have now pledged to assemble a coalition of concerned citizens against President Hart. Fortunately, the rhetoric may find fertile ground, for many well-off Democratic voters in the suburbs are now beginning to question which constituencies the party truly serves. Alright, let's resign. We finished. We're out. It embarrassed Philip Hart. At such a moment as this, the first thing he could think about was the sun shining in his eyes. It was a bright day and sunny day in the Rose Garden. The podium he stood at surrounded with vibrant flowers. The reporters sweating in their suits with notepads in hand, and the light of all the things was forcing him to squint. On any other day, he'd enjoy this weather. Right now, he'd have to make do. Good afternoon, he began, and then he found he couldn't stop. You're all very busy men and women, so I'll make this announcement as quickly as I can. I'm an older man, like many of us, and I have my health issues. My armor's been hampered since the Second World War. I had my share of coughs and sicknesses. My hair's gotten grayer with every year that goes by, but I'm here to let the American people know. Now the press is perking up, he thought, pausing to collect himself. Know that I have been diagnosed with terminal melanoma, but of which treatment has failed. A wave of gas swept over him, forcing him to grip the podium a little tighter. Following that was the rattle of cameras snapping him back into focus. He straightened his posture, blinked once or twice, stared straight ahead and continued. America deserves a strong and functional executive, thus I will resign my office in some weeks' time. For the capable hands of my vice president, who I know will serve you well. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve this nation, and I thank you all for the support and kindness which has been bestowed upon me. Words could never sum it up. Thank you dearly. Oh shit. If we finish, maybe if we finish TNO early, which we might, we might do Garten of Banban. Now the questions came, but they were nothing more. There were nothing more than a loud and jumbled mass of the soon-to-be ex-president. He stepped back from the podium, turned, and walked straight back through the door and into the White House embrace. Were those tears, or was it just the light? Winds from the northwest threatened to another thunderstorm for the weekend, so plan ahead, people. While you're vacationing away inside, let our Washington man Ben Hasse clue you in on the storm in Washington instead. Ben? Thanks, Dave. Well, big news from the Beltway today. Hey, as you may have already heard, the president announced his cancer diagnosis earlier this morning. We at Channel 8 News wish President Hart a speedy recovery. We make sure that the Hart family is in our prayers. Quiet second passes. Not long after, Senator Edward Kennedy, to reporters outside the Capitol, said the president did great work and I'm excited to carry on his legacy. Critics and opposing politicians have voiced their discontent with the senator's remark, claiming it was disrespectful towards the president, implying that President Hart is now incapable of performing presidential duties. This is in addition to claims that this was an attempt to jump in front for the 1976 Democratic primaries. In response to this backlash, Senator Kennedy has put out a statement saying he is heartbroken and personally affected by the president's cancer diagnosis, that he should have responded with more tact. Thanks for the rundown, Ben. You know, aren't the president and Senator Kennedy friends? I thought they were. Maybe we're missing some context, said Dale Bentley, loosening his journalistic professionalism. He'd been in the business long enough to know that most people have stopped watching by now. I believe they are, Dale. Regardless, you have to admit it was a bit of a kerfuffle. A mildly tickled smile passed over the face of the anchors. I've heard rumors that the president laughed upon hearing about Kennedy's debacle, but I refuse to report that as fact at this point. We'll have to wait for some kind of statement. Fair enough, Ben. To more lighthearted news, I believe Maureen has a special guest for us. Politics never stops. Right. Shep doesn't seem like, Letter from Henry H.A. Henry R. H.A. This one always gets me. Shep might have voted for Nixon, honestly. Honestly, it wouldn't be surprised me if Hart did as well. To the president. I had never written a politician in my life, and I did not think I'd pick up the habit now, but after learning of your condition, I believe it is the Christian thing to do. I send all my condolences and prayers to you and your family. You are a good and decent man who does not deserve the condition which you have, and I pray you overcome it. I cannot thank you enough for the work you have done in the last years. I remember the 60s always being scared that my kids might get hurt, or that my wife might be mugged, or that I couldn't make rent, or that my bills would be too much. Now I have a car, a new home, and my kids have places to stay. And my wife can go to the store without being scared. I'd like to tell you that all of us here are cheering for you and pray for your best. Whether you change your mind about the presidency or not, you've been a great senator for us. And a great president, too. I know that they'll talk about you as the best our state had to offer in our history. I did not vote for you in '68. I did not vote for you in '72. On the whole, I'm not particularly in agreement with the direction you've taken the country and the lack of care for those beyond the cities. However, I'm sure that you're a good man at heart, and I deeply and firmly believe that you have done what you believe to be the best thing for our nation, and I respect you for that. Keep these forever. Hearts from the wonderful state of Michigan. Genuinely, I really fucking like the events for Hearts, like end of life shit. Michigan. It's from Michigan. Don't let the feds hide it. Good evening, the president began, speaking to the cameras now. If he squinted at their lenses, he could practically see the Americans glued to their televisions. Families in living rooms or around kitchen tables, perhaps disagreeing on their opinions or their views. But all knowing they were watching history before them. Later he'd be told they numbered 110 million. He wondered if, the makeup and the lighting, they could see just how tired he was. I've never been one for the television address, so I I've only gone through them when there was a matter of national interest. This, of course, is one of those times. Some weeks ago, I announced my cancer diagnosis and my intention to resign. By noon tomorrow, the transfer of power shall have taken place. Words flowed through him like water as he spoke, taking the pain he always carried out with the tide. Occasionally, he picked out a sentence that he was saying. Our urban renewal has breathed life into our cities. Our students enjoy the best education in the world. Vice President Morrison has the courage and the tenacity to fight for us against authoritarian menaces without and our national issues within. Don't hate Hart for where he was born. It all felt like a hazy dream, or maybe a nightmare. Dreams never filled him with so much uncertainty, but nightmares didn't feel so relieving to go through. In a few short hours, I will leave my post for the only title more honorable and more prestigious that exists in our nation: citizen. We are citizens of these United States, are brought together by qualities far greater than those which divide us. From our wisdom and the grace of God, we shall see these times through, and emerge into one of worldwide liberty, of international democracy, and of pride in our nation, our people, and ourselves. He paused for a moment, then fixed the camera again with a gaze. One regret, of worry, but never, most of all, acceptance. One of regret, one of worry, most of all, acceptance. It's been the greatest honor of my life to serve in this office. Thank you all, and God bless America. A fitting end for a decent man. The Temptations of Saint Chip. It's important we do not panic. The conscience of America takes his exit. After the prolonged and public fight with cancer, President Philip A. Hart has announced his resignation. In his final speech, he explained that he no longer feels fit to continue his role as president. That he would like to spend his final months with those who are close to him, away from the Oval Office. Though his resignation, the second in American history after Nixon, is not unexpected, it will doubtlessly still cast a long shadow over the incumbent administration. Without President Hart, the office will now pass to Vice President Chip Morrison, who has promised to carry out Hart's agenda for the rest of his term. Morrison's presidency will likely be short, but will carry on the memory of a great American leader. To work is his honor, to leave is his duty. In the weeks after announcing his cancer diagnosis to the nation, his intention to resign the presidency, Philip Hart resigned his office in favor of Vice President Philip's story Chip Morrison. The transition of power took. Someone told me how to pronounce that. It's what the ads are what you get for dishing hard, alright? Transition of power took place in a highly choreographed and televised ceremony that saw outgoing President Hart depart the White House via Marine One, as his successor was sworn in by the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court on the steps of Capitol Hill. While Washington is engaged in solemn remembrance, outgoing officials have already expressed their concern about the capability of the incoming Morrison administration to carry on Hart's legacy. Entering office with limited national visibility, a divided Congress, and an unhappy cabinet, observers expect Morrison to face significant challenges over his remaining year in office. Time will tell whether the new president can live up to the legacy of his predecessor, or whether Washington will devour him whole. Tell Power congratulations. Here's to you, Mr. Morrison. Our nation turns its lonely eyes to you. Ooh. Chip, it's been quite the ride for the two of us, hasn't it? Even as I write this, I still find it hard to grapple with all we've done in our short time together in Washington. Whether rebuilding the nation's infrastructure, or making our cities the safest places, we've worked hard to build a country that can live up to its founding principles. As I approach the end of my life, I want you to know how proud I've been to serve alongside you these past few years. I know that things have not always been easy for you. I know that there are many people, some in this administration, who have been cruel. But your strength and fortitude has been noticed by many people, not least of all me. And for that reason, I will always be grateful you decided to join me on the ticket. in 68 and 72. If I could, I would continue serving alongside you as a colleague and a friend. Circumstances as they are, however, I will entrust you to finish the good work we've started. The road ahead will be difficult, and the challenge is unfair, but you possess the grit to see it through. You always have. You're a good man, Shep. Stand tall and keep your faith. Yours, Love Heart. The heart knows words, what words cannot express. Lord, President Shep Morrison thought, give me strength to make it through this day, at least this day. He wasn't sure if the Lord was listening. Movers swarmed around the White House like ants on sugar, stripping it bare of all that Phil had brought with him and leaving a shell behind. One armoire brushed by Shep with a bump and muffled sorry. Another couch nearly cut him off at the knees, finally prompting him to move into his office and watch the train of furniture go by. Damn, he thought. Phil brought a lot of things with him. Zazo had filled that space nicely with all the things she liked to drag around with her. His smile remained for all of 3 seconds before it took him to remember the gravity of the situation. I don't think they were gay for each other, but they definitely kissed. A little with tongue. True. President. He was the goddamn president. Why? He never wanted to be president, nor he ever intended to be president. All the responsibilities, all the eyes on him. No, Zazo was the celebrity here. He'd enjoy that sort of attention in moderation. But he thought of the entire nation's gaze boring into his every move for months on end. It made him nauseous. And that wasn't even considering the fiscal hawk bastards in Congress that were going to try and gut him from chin to crotch. A chair getting dragged caught his eye. Hey, wait, you boarded, catching the river's eye surprise. That's mine. I use that chair. Can you put it in here? Slowly, the mover complied. Shit, Shep thought, looking on. He really wasn't ready for all this. Responsibility, asked for or not. The Morrison administration is incredibly disorganized. These upcoming weeks will be spent getting everything in order before others can take advantage of our situation. I mean, we were getting it pretty good, and then it just bumped up at the last second. I don't know how to, like, deal with the economy. I've never been able to get that one up. Open fire on the homeless. Connie's for bitches true. Darling, can I be honest with you? Shep blinked, his gaze drawing the desk to the hazel eyes of his wife, the first lady now. Jesus Christ, he was still president. How long had it been? A day or two? Maybe a week. But God, if it didn't feel like a year already. So many cameras, so many microphones, so many damn papers. How'd Phil put up with it for 2 terms? True. Zaza didn't wait for him to actually react to keep talking. You look awful, darling. Absolutely dreadful. Your suit's all wrinkled, you look pale. When was the last time you slept? Certainly wasn't with me. I'm sorry, honey. He mumbled, running a hand through his hair, which had been rapidly thinning before he'd even gotten this high up. I just don't know where to start. How do you do like a meek southern accent? Southern accent. Something like this. At the time, it feels like I'd be better off getting shot at by Nazis again. And I like the media, politics, you know that? Just too much. It's too much. Zaza considered that for a moment, then Delica wrapped her arms around his shoulders, resting her head by his side. My poor darling, she murmured in his ear. A good cocktail party to cheer you up, is that right? No, not tonight. I couldn't if I wanted to with all these cabinet meetings. First Lady sighed. Well, I'll be going anyway. She stood back up again, making her way to the door. I'll be back by the end of the night, darling. Remember, I love you. Love you too, honey. The streetlights beamed down throughout the cold night air, illuminating the unassuming mission in suburbia in shades of yellow. Sidewalks were deserted and the neighborhood quiet, save for one home. It was a practical circus of black cars, men in suits, and family members filed in and out of the front door, somberly somberly talking and looking for others to join them. They were there for Phil. Zaza for Perez, so true. The downstairs living room was crowded with family now. Children, grandchildren, brothers and sisters, all dead silent, waiting. Before them was the former president, bedridden and skeletal, clinging on to the last embers of a well-spent life. Beside him sat Janie in a wooden chair, all quiet and tearful. She was still holding Phil's hand. Phil President blinked, looking around at the faces surrounding him. He shifted slightly in his bed, sitting up, and his mouth spoke in words which nobody could hear. Janie moved in to catch them. All that the rest of the room could tell from it came from the tears which stuck down the First Lady's face. She didn't pass the words on. His final work complete, Philip had lied back down in his bed, closed his eyes, and exhaled. Everyone's gotta go sometime. Mr. President, I've got a plan for you to start out the show with. The difference in energy between... Rip. Can we get some F's in chat for Philip Hart? F for Philip Fart. The difference in energy between Chep and Hubert Humphrey was unmistakable. Practically spellbinding to watch. Even at his older age, Humphrey was practically bouncing in his seat, drawing papers from folders and spreading them neatly on the table before the comparatively stark-still president. Chep had to wonder if there was a motor strapped to his back. Did he ever get tired? Now, now you know as well as I do that a lot of people in the Senate aren't so keen on you as they were on Phil. God bless them. They knew him, they worked with him, they respect him. Now, if you ask me, I think it comes from the perception that Phil was the man putting the ideas out there, and you were the salesman. That's not fair, Chep murmured, sipping his coffee. I did as much work as anyone. Hell, more than most of the others. You think Gene McCarthy was wearing the pants in this cabinet? I worked with Gene long enough to know better. Humphrey smiled. But that's the thing. The Senate can take a huckster. I'm not a huckster either. I know, but the Senate can take that if they think he's a good man with the head on his shoulders beside him. A Phil Hart, if you will, which is why he pulled out yet another folder from his briefcase, slapping it on the table and violently rattling the coffee mugs. I suggest to you Senator Birch Bayh from Indiana as your number 2. Good man, committed liberal, focused on women's rights. His wife has cancer, doesn't she? Humphrey paused, finally. She's battling it for a few years, yes. He says he's willing regardless. Trust me, Mr. President, Birch Bayh is the real deal. Hell, maybe I'll even get some sympathy for it. Morning after. Philip Story Morrison, now President of the United States, was trying not to cry. Walking behind the casket of his old chief as the strains of Beethoven's the cancer cabinet, as if Beethoven's second funeral march played. He did not think about the future of his administration, nor about the problems that besieged it. Preserving the URI, German and Japanese diplomacy and subversion, the state of the cities and towns, the state of the Organization of Free Nations, the plight of farmers or common workers. All these were matters that he would have. But that's not important. All these were matters he would have to face later in his way, it was true, but now they did not matter. How could it matter when in front of Morrison was not the resolute desk, but the coffin of the man that had once been behind it? The man that should still have been behind it, rather than his second in command. The sheer pain and misery of it all grated at him. God, nothing could make seeing a co-worker, no, damn it all, a dear friend, die like that any easier. Hello, welcome to the chat, Sunka, but we're no more proxy conflicts, and we are just reading events and trying to preserve the URI. And so it was that the hearse was borne up by pallbearers into St. Matthew's Cathedral. The president entered the place where his old chief was to be commemorated. He still struggled to repress the tears. Congrats to Chet Morrison for being divorced. I don't know if that's necessary. Jane Jacobs set her jaw as she stared out at the funeral. She hated how tense it was at that funeral the funeral of a man who had become a dear friend to her. She wasn't allowed to cry. She knew that while all the men would speak today, who would be permitted their imperfections, as the highest-ranking female cabinet member in history, she would not get that luxury. So she stood strong for the memory of her friend. Philip Hart was not a great president, or a great man, because he was always right, Jacobs said. He was not the leader that he was because he marched forward under the belief that he had all the answers. He was a great leader because he knew that he was just as human as the rest of us, that he could not change America alone. She swallowed, gave herself a small nod. I was introduced to Phil when he contacted me after reading my book. I was expecting the same political nonsense I heard 1,000 times. Flattery, fake promises, the subtle request for an endorsement, but that's not what Phil Hart gave me. He didn't want anything from me yet. All he wanted was help understanding my ideas, help understanding how he could apply them to serve the American people. She allowed herself a snort. If you want the truth, if you told me I'd be standing up here, giving a eulogy for a president whose cabinet I served in 10 years ago, I'd have laughed in your face. But that's just who Phil was. He was ready to learn from anyone, from the highest academics to the humblest of activists. And I learned from him. I have a lot to thank Phil for. His friendship, the example he set, the opportunity to serve this country, but most of all, I'm grateful that he let me believe in God again, in the promise of America. We're building prisons again. Walter Reuther was afraid. He was afraid. Now that America had lost its president, he was afraid. Now that a relatively unknown quantity had taken his place. He was afraid now that the greatest advances for the poor in American history were at risk of slipping away. But America, the people he'd spent his life fighting for, didn't need his fear. So, as he gave his eulogy for the greatest protector the American worker had ever known, he looked straight ahead. The primaries most of the country looked at this newcomer, this outsider from the Great Lakes, suddenly trouncing all the party insiders with confusion. But I can tell you, not Michigan. We knew who Phil Hart was since he served as our lieutenant governor in the 50s. We knew he had integrity and honor, and that he would do everything in his power to fight for the common man. I know I speak for all Michiganlanders when I say it's been a privilege to watch the president show the nation the kind of man he is, just as he's shown us. While I mourn the president's death, I can take heart in the knowledge that cancer can kill a man, but cannot kill his legacy. President Hart has entrusted the America he built, an America of equality, brotherhood, and freedom to us all. It's our job to pick up the torch he left us. As applause rang out in front of him, Reuther fought off a scowl. Conservatives probably had enough decency to give the nation one day to mourn, but he knew the knives would come out tomorrow. Everything Hart had done would be dragged to the altar of fiscal responsibility. And everything Reuther had said today, in his heart of hearts, he didn't know if the efforts of the American working class would be able to save what they had won. And waits another fight. You're so mean to the Midwest. You're so mean to the Midwest, and for no reason. Gene McCarthy bit his lip as he looked out at the audience. You'll hear a lot of people talk about the late president as a friend. He said, I wish I could say the same, but I can't. Phil was a rival. But that would probably be giving I'd say Phil was a rival, but that'd probably be giving myself too much credit. I got a small laugh at least. He brushed past me in the primaries, he left me in the dust, and what he offered me as the agricultural secretary petition, I assumed it was just a token to unite the party, that I wouldn't have much real power. But I was wrong, because that might have been how most politicians would have done it, but not Phil Hart. He always made sure I was included in cabinet discussions, that my voice was heard, that my concerns were answered. Sure, we had our disagreements, and the cabinet wasn't always perfect, but whenever petty politics threatened to tear us apart, the president kept us moving forwards towards our goal, doing what's best for the American people. For that, the president will always have respect. Philip Hart was many things to me, Nelson Rockefeller said, looking out over the audience. He was a husband, a son, a father, a brother. He was a public servant who spent decades working tirelessly for the people of the nation he loved. And this I can say from personal experience, he ran quite the primary campaign. Rocky cracked one of his signature smiles at that. He hoped the laughter that followed, at least some of it, was genuine. Look, it's no secret that President Hart and I didn't see eye to eye on any number of issues, Rockefeller said. Through all our disagreements about the best methods with which I could make this great country a better place for all citizens, I never doubted the two of us shared the same love of America and its spirit of freedom, equality, and justice for all. And the courage and vision with which the president pursued that dream has never been clearer to all of us than it is this day. As we look around at the safer, wealthier, stronger, freer, and more equal America that he left behind. United in grief. No, I think the Midwest is alright. I've seen worse. Bayard Rustin looked out over the audience. Nothing had made him sure of what he was about to say than the number of black faces he saw in the crowd. Rustin doubted the death of any white man had devastated his people so much since Lincoln. When I was asked to give this eulogy, he began, his reedy voice carrying over the crowd. Part of me didn't know what to say. I'd never had the good fortune of knowing President Hart personally. Of course, considering him a friend, I wondered how my words could possibly measure up to the words you have heard today and from those who knew him, worked alongside him, shared their lives with him. He was surprised to feel it burning behind his eyes, but then I realized that I did know the president. Part of him, at least. Every black person in America knows the president. We know of his kindness when we look around us at the cities we live in. So recently squalid ghettos, but transformed in no small part thanks to his work into communities in which we find true joy. We know of his vision, from years of working with his administration to actually transform the lives of our people on our own terms. Not of those of some white bureaucrats, and we know of his courage. The repeated stands against the forces of hatred both within this country and within the halls of power, the great fascist empire. Black people, on this day, mourn the loss of the greatest president of the United States since Abraham Lincoln. Philip Hart may be dead, but his memory lives on in the heart of every black child who will grow up in a country where, at long last, they can know true freedom. As we continued in the struggle to make America a reality, we will never forget the work of our advocate, our ally, and friend. I don't think we can say that. Mr. President, Humphrey's cheer was infectious. This is Senator Birch of Indiana. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here, Mr. President. Shep shook the proffered hand, firm but not crushing. I've heard I've heard good things about you, Senator. You seem like a very accomplished young man. They took a seat. So tell me, Senator, why should I make you Vice President? Well, Mr. President, I've been in the Senate for over a decade and in state government for 8 years before that. I've been out there on civil rights and women's rights. I've helped to get 2 constitutional amendments ratified, and I'm working on 2 others. By a pause, not thinking. Now, Mr. President, I like my current job. If you need someone who's just there to sit pretty and smile, I'm not your guy, but I promise you that if you pick me, I'll work hard and fight as hard as anyone to get things done here. In Washington, and to make you a real difference in the lives of the people in this country, just like you and President Hart have done. Shep nodded along. Baya seemed nice enough. Handsome, too, which never hurt. He'd be a good pick. They wanted to look at the alternatives. Senator, you're a farmer by trade, correct? Yes, sir. Farm boy from Vigo County. Got my first degree in agriculture. Well, you've certainly given a lot to think about. Thanks for coming. I hope you and Senator Humphrey have a good trip back to the Hill. Shep took his lunch with Hale. 2 were old veterans of the political fights down in Crescent City. In the Crescent City, long stalwarts against what then seemed like an unstoppable long machine. I looked at the names he sent me. Carey, Stevenson, Askew. Bogg shook his head. Shep, need a good rural liberal. Someone outside the urban politics business. Preferably a likable one. Shep spogged. Heard you interview Birch? Shep nodded. He'd be a good pick, Mr. President. Shep Morrison stared down at the paper, and up at the assembled audience. The eulogy was the kind of eulogy a president taking over from his dead predecessor was expected to give. I pronounce it Baya, but that's probably not right. Bay? No, that doesn't sound right. It was a eulogy for America, but after it all, platitudes about duty, honor, and the goodness of America, of the need to come together, it was an eulogy for America. But after it all, Philip Harper's a friend, and he deserved better than this. Shep looked up, not letting his eyes drift down to the paper. For a few seconds, he just stood there, finding the words. Phil is the best of us, he finally said. You know, when you spend so long in government, you can forget that the people you were elected to serve are more than just numbers on a ledger. And each and every one of them is a person with hopes, fears, and loves. I know I've been guilty of that, but not Phil. Everything that got put on his desk, urban rule, healthcare, detente, didn't matter. He'd approach it all with his kindness. That's the only thing I can call it. Maybe he wasn't perfect, and maybe he made mistakes, but everything he did, he never did it to score political points, or to get one over on his enemies. He did it for America. For a few seconds he floundered, trying to find the words for what he felt. You know, I'm not like him. I know I'm not. I'm an old Dixiecrat, and I peaked when Nike was president. There were times when I made backroom deals, when I went low, when I played politics instead of serving the people, but I guess he thought I had a place in one of the greatest administrations this country's ever seen. Shep felt a lump in his throat. With Herculean effort, he swallowed it. That's what made Phil Hart the man he was. The president he was. He saw the best in everyone. He saw the best in America. He believed that whatever our weaknesses, whatever our prejudices, we could all be great. So I invite all Americans, white and black, men and women, old and young, rich and poor, to honor the legacy of my president, my friend by proving him right. Let us continue. After a great deal of soul-searching and consultation within the Republican-Democratic coalition, and without, I have decided on my vice presidential nominee. The man I have picked up has served with distinction the whole of state government and the United States Senate for nearly 20 years, and has been an unwavering friend for minorities, the farmer, and the laborer, trailblazer in the fight for women's rights, and the author of constitutional amendments, save for the founders themselves. He is a man in whom I have absolute faith, who will ably assist the administration. This administration, as it serves out the remainder of its terms in office, it is with great pride and pleasure I announce that it's in the name of Birch Evans Baya to the... There we go. Yeah, you got the picture. So on and so forth. House divided. You have to say, thank God that's over with. How's the title fit? You have to say, thank God that's over with. How's the title fit you? Shep asked said jovially as he grasped the hands of the Oval Office's door to the chuckle of his new number 2. Like a glove, Mr. President. It's a wonderful honor. Baya replied, standing beside him, confidence exuding from his frame. Yeah, well, it's damn thankless too. Some of those fellows on Capitol Hill. The president started as he swung the door open. His words were interrupted by the pop of a bottle, and he jerked backwards as a cork hit him between the eyes. God damn! Congratulations, darling! Zaza crooned, champagne spilling onto the resolute desk. You're a real president now, with the handsome running mate and all. Come over here. Yeah, have a drink. Both of you. The president didn't reply, his mouth slightly ajar, his hand rubbing the sore spot on his head. She was sitting at his desk, in his chair, shooting him in the face in front of his colleague. Words failed him. Thankfully, that wasn't the same for Baya, who could feel pushing him by him and into the room. Mr. President, I appreciate the sentiment, but we need to get to work here, if you don't mind, Baya said, setting a stern gaze at the socialite. Her mouth began to move, but Baya cut in again. I'm flattered. I really am, but we got a lot to do here. Save the champagne for later, please. Zaza turned her head, her glare borne to the same spot where she hit Shep. Should have known you'd pick a square. The First Lady muttered, standing with a flourish and sweeping the folder off the table as she strutted away. Baya turned to the still frozen Shep, a questioning look on his face. I'm terribly sorry about that. Are we talking about the HEW? There are some things even a salesman isn't ready for. So it's these rotten, crooked bastards from the United States Senate. Everyone's behaving. Oh shit, Corgo, welcome to the stream! Oh my god! Hey man, how's it going? Sorry, we're just reading shit right now? It's just Corgo's a good friend of mine from back, way back, not way back in the day. We met up over the summer, but man, it's been a minute. How's it going? Welcome to the goddamn stream, dude. How's it hanging? Corgo, the new guy in chat. Once Vice President Birch Baya's introduction, a formality observed for his position was finished, Shep set a legal pad over his desk to both Baya and Secretary Jacobs. That's one of the housekeeping items on my to-do list, a proposal to break out the Housing and Urban Affairs programs to their own dedicated cabinet-level position, separate from the HEW. Shep spoke bluntly, different from the eloquence he regularly demonstrated. As it stands, the workload is too large for one person to manage, and it's only getting bigger as we roll out more programs. Yeah, sorry this isn't gonna be the most action-packed stream, Corgo. This is a reading game. Sounds like the right idea to me. I'm being pulled in enough directions as it is, Jacob said after reading over the proposal. Who's drafting the form of legislation? I'd like to be able to pick the areas I focus on. I'll leave that to you two. Shep nodded at both Jacobs and Baya before continuing. Jane should divide up responsibilities between two departments, and Baya will advise on what will make through Congress. Sound good? Business as usual? Question mark? Yeah, no, I'm happy to see you too. You're always welcome in the stream, man. Always happy to have you in chat. Blessed is the peacemaker. Thank you for your time, Secretary Jacobs. Shep stood at the resolute desk to greet Jane Jacobs as she entered the Oval Office. Atlas, can you make that poll? Jane Jacobs as she entered the Oval Office. There had been bad blood between them in the past, but it was important, given the circumstances, to try and turn over a new leaf in their relationship. Frankly, Chet Morrison needed every ally he could get. They shook hands in awkwardness, and tinged with animosity hung between them. I want to say that I regret the bad feelings between us during Philip's time in office, Chet began, attempting to dispel the cloud between them. I know I certainly... I certainly rubbed you the wrong way at times, and I'm sorry for that, but with everything going on, I don't think our feud is worth continuing. Truce? Jacob's blinked, slightly taken aback by Chep's opening. Some small, uncharitable part of her had never believed Chep was capable of a gesture like this, but she didn't mind being surprised. She nodded, her mind moving from the bad blood between them to the issue at hand. I did not agree to that. I did not agree to that. I wish I could. Appreciate that, Mr. President. With that being said, I believe we can... the most important thing now is making sure the URA survives past this administration. A sad look crossed Chep's face, quickly replaced by a mask of professionalism. I don't want the URA dying on me. That won't be the legacy of this administration. Not as long as I can do anything about it. Jacobs felt a brief flash of pride, perhaps admiration for Chep, as he took on the whole threat of the failure of the project. Then she turned and left the Oval Office, leaving Chep alone once again. Pleasure of friendship or diffuse rivalry. Departments will push forward policy of public housing and municipal services while working alongside the states and cities, but education and healthcare carved out. Baya pinched the bridge of his nose as he finished reviewing the section of the Urban Affairs Act, outlining the new responsibilities of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Seems small now, but given the scale of the president's programs, it's a job that'll only get bigger. Jane Jacobs put the draft text aside. Better we get a dedicated cabinet member to watch it rather than risk it falling through the cracks. All I can say is I'm glad I have you on our side. I don't think I've done the separation process as cleanly as you have, Baya said. President's lucky to have you, seeing as how long you've been looking at these issues under President Hart. It's had its ups and downs, Secretary Jacobs said, suddenly engrossed in the text they just received. Under both Hart and Morrison, I mean. Any tips with working with Morrison? Seeing as I'm new here. Secretary Jacobs foundered in her answer. Something uncharacteristic of her, enough to pique Baya's interest. Maybe they don't get along. On the floor. The Vice President was required to be present in the Senate unless required to cast the deciding vote, which Baya had made a point to present the Urban Affairs Act as introduced to the floor. The legislation we hear is how we honor the memory of President Hart by carrying on his legacy of urban renewal. Consider that every $10 used in your districts fighting for crime can be replaced by $1 funding housing or access to basic necessities, and that's prevention is better than a pound of cure. The oath we took to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution cannot be limited to preserving our past. It must be dedicated to ensuring a brighter future. Baya himself couldn't speak, much to his own chagrin, as he would have happily led the charge on the floor himself had he remained senator. But that didn't mean he couldn't guide the RDC senators taking to the floor on the talking points the administration wanted them to cover, or the emotional highs to hit. And worrying about the reaction on the floor, judging from the reaction on the floor, there wouldn't be much to worry about. Oh, no, that's not good. That's not good. That's not good. Rumblings within the chamber. To Frank Secretary Jacobs, the news from the Senate is more dire for the URI than we'd anticipated. Birch Baya leaned forward, his voice dropping as if imparting some terrible secrets. I've had senators showing me polls from Massachusetts, New York watching. It's all bad. The URI's popularity is down double digits in some of the most liberal parts of the country. Senators don't want to go down with it. Left unspoken between them, as they were both aware, was how every conservative in the country had taken the opportunity of Hart's death to launch every imaginable attack on the URI. Think Morrison will be able to even work through it? Presidency is one heck of a bully pulpit. Even as she asked, Jacobs knew the answer. Shep had been chosen for the vice presidency. Hart's handpicked successor, but whether he measures up to the requirements of the Oval Office remained an elephant in the room-sized question mark. Can't be sure. Pai replied, rubbing his chin and trying to be optimistic. He's a man on a mission, trying his best to help the country. I'd like to think someone like that always has a shot. But there are many more cynical than me. He can't rule by decree, but Congress won't listen to him, so he's in limbo. Baya continued, but Jacobs drifted away briefly, slightly haunted by the memory of the passion, investment, glinting the eyes of Morrison as he described his plans to fight for the URI. Huh. No? Hadn't been his idea, but he was now one of its staunchest defenders and seemed to have his whole heart in the fight. If the URI died, its blood would not be on Morrison's hands. Her animosity for him further shrinking, Jane Jacobs decided to check on the president. Reconciliation or commiseration among tragedy? Sorry, Mr. Vice President, but the Urban Affairs Act isn't likely to make it out of committee. What? First, his mind went blank on the report. He hadn't been playing at all. Who's holding it up? We made sure the RDC had enough people to move things through. Debates going around in circles, and you know how it is with senators. I'll tell them to get with the program, but they've been doing that already. Do it again! Do it again! Baya hung up, his mind beginning to race through the contingency plans, but not before telling Chep. Huh. I don't remember my dreams, really. What do you mean the bill's been stalled? What do you mean the bill's been stalled? Chep's tone was incredulous as Baya's been earlier. Made sure the RDC had enough people. Yes, we did, and I'm gonna read them the act. Baya said, stopping Chep from going over the details they both knew. Funny how everyone who's saying the act's praises on the floor is getting cold feet now. There's gotta be a reason, Chep said, as much to himself as Baya. Raspy, ask around. A lot more lever twisting arms in the Oval Office. You just keep him sticking to the script in public, in case the press starts knocking. Don't ask how the sausage is made. Mr. Vice President, it's good to see you, Mr. Birch. Huh. Like FNAF. Baya shook her hand, landing an ineffectual punch to the senator's arm. You too, Hubert. I trust things have gone alright on the hill since I've been gone? Humphrey frowned. As a matter of fact, Vice President, that's why I'm here. Things have changed for the worse since Phil, may God bless his soul, passed on. Forget about passing the Urban Affairs Act, they're coming for the URI. They're moving quickly, aren't they? Maybe so, Birch. We think they have good reason to. Humphrey passed over a file. These are the latest polling numbers. They're bad news for us. Mr. Vice President, I'd help keep the URI above water without him. Like blood in the water. By a murderer, flipping through the data. President needs to hear about this. Humphrey nodded. You're in for a fight, Mr. Vice President. They've begun gunning for a chance like this since Ike. And they've got the public on their side for once. If they want to fight, Hubert, it's a fight they'll get. Why is named Birch? Is he wood? Maybe. Jane Jacobs turned to the Oval Office, the store handle, reminded other places. I don't know why I'm building hospitals. The moment she opened, she heard Zaza Gabor shouting. Jacobs withdrew to a safe distance, trying not to eavesdrop. Gabor swept past her without a look, word, or presumably thought. When Jacobs entered the President of the United States head in his hands, she could see a slight quiver and his face was pale. He looked up. President Chep, would you mind telling what that was about? Ah, Miss Jacobs. Chep's eyes seemed to sparkle with tears as he blinked as they disappeared. Nothing much of anything. Jacobs recognized the signs. He needed help and her business could wait. Are you alright, Chep? Surprise crossed Chep's face. He hadn't expected the question. Indecision, pain, and sadness warred in the parent's eyes. I'd asked Zaza to talk to the press. It doesn't bother me much, but her criticism can really... Talk less of the press. It doesn't bother me much, but her criticism can really hurt the staff's morale. The discussion got off track. Jacobs let the lies pass. I've helped people through things like this. It's never easy talking that, but I'm here to listen. It's a lot to bear alone. Thank you, Miss Jacobs. I think I will. Huh. Marksman Hell Bongs. Familiar? Hell and I worked together back when we still tangled with the Longs back in New Orleans. Still don't know how I managed that one. Still don't know how we managed that one, Mr. President, Boggs replied, smiling. But as much as I'd like to catch up, I believe the Vice President called me in to discuss the state of URI reform in Congress at the moment. Reform? That damn bill there's what they call reform. You may as well call me Huey Long. It's a matter if it's accurate, Shep, Boggs replied. All that matters is the public likes it, and they do. We got too many people in vulnerable places to even think about it. We're gonna stand as is. What matters, Bio interrupted, is what we can do, Mr. President. Right. We need to talk this out with Jacobs. Hey, how long do we have before this thing hits the floor? Not long, Mr. President, Boggs frowned. The Conservative Coalition is moving fast. A month, maybe, before it gets out of committee onto the floor. Right. Bye, you and I have to visit Secretary Jacobs to make. Hale, good luck with everything on the Hill. Good luck to you too, Mr. President. Shep and Bio were walking down the halls of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. Shep and Bio were half running, half walking down the halls of HEW. Shep and Bio broke into a light sprint, leaving the security detail behind and a befuddled group of department staffers in their wake. It would have been comical if not for the look of sheer panic on their faces. You pick up the cat. Just very carefully, like scoop under the cat. It was the scene that Jane Jacobs walked into as she turned the corner towards the office. Gentlemen, my God, what? My God, what? Jane, the rat badges are going for the whole thing. They're... I'm gonna tell you before you hear from anyone else. It's the URI. Here's what I do when my cat's sleeping. The mattress is squishy, so I squish my hands kind of into the mattress and then slide it under the cat. They continued rambling. Jane, feeling like a school teacher trying to calm two children, urged them to hush and join her in her office. The two men, the most powerful men in the country, slumped into their chairs. Some coaxing, they rattled off the whole sordid affair of URI repeal effort. The offers of reform, the horrible threats, the mobilization of conservative activists. I can't say I'm not disappointed. She forced herself to give the president a accomplishment. Appreciate you looping me in so early. Jan moved her glass and sighed. Won't lie when I say this is serious. Reactionaries always take tactics like these, promising reform while holding a knife behind their backs. The only way to fight back is in these kind of confrontations to prove they aren't popular. The only way to fight back in these confrontations is to prove that they aren't popular, to rally a huge public movement. I did in New York against those, and as much as I hate to admit it, you did against the You too did against Long New Orleans, Shep. Well, those were cities. How do we do that countrywide? Jacobs grimaced. Well, I believe we'll need to assemble what they call a dream team. Approach. Okay, yeah. I'll do that then. I wasn't sure if it was better to just like let it get them divorced already. Listen, the divorce takes time, much like real divorces. As Shep talked, Jacobs finally saw what she had been missing for years. That hot bod. She recalled how during the Hart administration, whenever she had confronted him, he had backed down each time. At the time, she had chalked it up to the strength of her arguments and force of will. Perhaps his cowardice, but now she worried that each time she had stood up to him, her victory had come through an unknowing exploitation of his dysfunctional relationship. Hart had mentioned it to her, though she only had gotten full view of this problem now. She had been proud to know the warning signs of such things, but her ill will to Shep had turned a blind eye to his situation. Now, however, she knew she had to help him. What do you want out of your marriage, Shep? She asked. The president halted mid-sentence, the question requiring a few minutes of careful thought. He was still getting used to her new attitude towards him. I remember my first wife, Corrine, before she passed, he said, with a little sad smile. She wouldn't yell. I didn't feel like I was on thin ice every moment of my life. I guess it was a normal marriage rather than something truly special. Zaza and me, we've had some good times, so the lows were... Ugh. He trailed off. Jacobs nodded. He needed to process the problem rather than have Jacobs shepherd him through it. Do you think you can have a normal marriage with Zaza? Shep's eyes dropped. The implicit, underlying follow-up question hung in the air between them as he pondered. Any animosity had disappeared hours ago, replaced by awkward amity. Then, the words both knew were coming, crept up on the president's lips. No. Why shouldn't I? Well, no, okay, explain it to me. Because it just boosts it when... Look, it just boosts it when... Stop yelling at me! Exactly, listen. All it does is it doesn't provide a debuff to the ones that Shep is managing. It just boosts the ones he isn't. Shep Morrison and Jane Jacob. Okay, listen. We figured it out. You can stop yelling in my chat. I gotta add back the no backseating tag. Shep Morrison and Jane Jacobs were still discussing his marriage, even after hours of discussion. Jacobs was careful not to push the president. With a single misstep, she might cause him to close up again, ruining any chance of improving his marriage. Still, however, she was worried that he might not be fully honest with her. I agree, Miss Jacobs, that Zaza might not be perfect, and she could still be kinder in tone. But she's not pushing me around. Shep was still unwilling to admit that he never stood up to Zaza, taking her tirade in silence, even fear. Sometimes, something that the man... Yeah, exactly. If I didn't take it, then, you know, we wouldn't be getting Walter Reuther. The situation was exactly as it appeared. Shep, do you think I don't see how things are? She asked. I see how she yells at you and you don't respond. How she makes decisions and you accept them without a question. How she'll leave on a vacation at the drop of a hat and never even pretend to invite you. It's okay to admit that. That the way she treats you is domineering. She halted, seeing Shep's face freeze. She knew she had crossed the line she was not ready for. I love my wife, Miss Jacobs, but I'm the President of the United States. She does not boss me around and I'm my own man. I know this marriage can work. It's just a matter of effort. Divorce is out of the very question. Jacobs didn't like it, but knew when not to push. Very well, Mr. Morrison, but leave some room for yourself, too, in this marriage. Work is all well and good, but both of you have to be willing to put it in. Shep nodded, but Jacobs knew he was not listening like he had been before. She got up to leave, and Shep thanked her, but something between them seemed to have disappeared. Sometimes all you can do is try. I've told you, like, go under the mattress and pick up the cat. I do it all the time with my cat. The motherfucker does not get a moment of good sleep with me around. That or just sleep around your cat. You won't injure it. Just be Ginger. Under the Land Reform Act, private citizens will be entitled to buy, sell, and rent extra rooms in public housing blocks. Any rent controls to be fully repealed. Shep winced at the legislation as the legislation's import sunk in. Shep winced as the legislation's import sunk in. Was the effect of privatization of the URI's public housing programs, capable of dealing a massive blow to the entire program. If this passes, Mr. Morrison, the administration is back to square one on housing, Jacobs warned. Once investors get their hands on this and... Once their investors get the hands on this and turn it into a market, we'll see marked up costs on any pretense of affordability for all abandoned. America's poor and vulnerable squeeze out of their first homes they've ever had. Jacobs continued laying out the crisis ahead, but Shep had drifted away. He was no pessimist, but having gotten where he was with a bootstrapping positive attitude, but even he was daunted by the mountains ahead. He knew he had to go lobby senators, congressmen, appear on television, radio, heck, the street corner if that was what it took to keep Hart's legacy alive. The images of doors slamming in his face, allies walking away, and the conservative surcharge circling clouded his mind. Something small and rotten inside of him resisting that resisting the tax on the URI was pointless, and why even make the effort? Even as he left the Oval Office, Shep, knowing better, listened a bit too much to that little voice. I've been correct more often than not recently, he reasoned, and besides, what if I should work himself to death for a futile cause? Morrison rapped his fingers against the resolute desk, wanting the phone dial to ring through his eardrums like a fire alarm. Waiting for the other end to pick up, if he couldn't get his support for the URI, he knew he may as well give up. Shep is not the kind of man to give up easily. Reuther speaking, the voice on the other end responded quizzically. Afternoon, Mr. Reuther, it's Morrison. I've been wondering if you'd heard of the Urban Renewal Initiative I've been leading in the Senate. I'm well aware it's in both our interests and that Your support would do more than swing things our way, so the question stands. Can I count on you for this? The flying stayed silent for a moment. Ruther considered the proposition. I think we both know I ought to say yes, but my schedule's not exactly clean. The press is working to ruin me like there's no tomorrow, and that aside, why are you asking me exactly? Yeah. Shep felt a slight grin hug his face, and he leaned back in his chair. Nothing much, Ruther, just a hand of mobilizing support for the URI. I know I'm not hard, but we've still got an obligation to work together on these things, especially when they're as important as this. Too true, Chepwell. So far I'd seen the two are practically symbiotic in their work routine. And not much in the way Morrison could, not such a way that Morrison could easily fill that gap. A sigh emanated from the phone. Alright, Shep, where do you need me? Just need you to come to Washington so we can hash things out there. Thanks a lot, Ruther. You sure you're on board with all this? Sure, Chap, it's just all wearing me thin. Well, waiting by the presidential limousine as the Boeing 747 taxied into the airport, Shep watched with sympathy as Ruther scurried down the staircase towards the waiting car. After briefly exchanging pleasantries, they both sat down as the limousine sped off towards the White House. Alright, good night, Laura. Ruther, I cannot thank you enough for coming here. Your flight was well, I take it? Morrison asked, with a slight edge to his voice. Ruther gave him a puzzled, if understanding look. Shep, that'd be the second time you asked. I haven't exactly warmed up to flying the 15 minutes. You seem a bit off. Are you feeling alright? Morrison let out a sigh and slid down in his chair, losing his composure. Harold look. No, I'm sorry, Ruther. I'm really not. Sorry I dropped this on you, but I've been through more theatricals than governing lately. I'm getting sick of both. And even being around that damn Boeing. Ruther nodded apathetically, with more than a touch of enthusiasm. I know all too well, if you don't mind me telling the truth. My flight was downright dreadful. Nothing particularly bad about it. I've just always had a bad fear of flying. Bad feeling from those. Ruther said, watching Morrison begin to nod, staring straight forward. You and me both, Ruther. Ruther, that's what I like best about you. You always seem to be real spooked with the same stuff I am. Shep smiled and glanced over to Ruther. Sure, Shep, but that's the difference between you and me both. You know how to hide it when you get spooked. I just get out of there and deal with it. That's why you're in DC, Ruther. Good afternoon, Secretary Jacobs. Good afternoon, President Morrison. Nice to see you. Indeed, any hint of tension between President AGW Secretary had vanished, replaced by a collegial air and comment among friendly co-workers. It had been some time since they'd had less discussed marriage, and Jacobs' experience Morrison did not wish to take it any further. Appreciate your help, Secretary Jacobs, the President said, leaving the topic of his thanks deliberately vague. He knew that he owed her not only for advice with the URI, but also her personal advice, however hard it had been to accept her points. Now, however, it was time to focus on the work. The opportunity to save the URI hat in so many people's hard work is more than enough thanks, Mr. President. She replied, seeing the shadows of guilt in his eyes. She pressed on. I know, and I've seen how hard you worked on the program's behalf. I and America know you tried your best. Going forward, it'll be my turn to try and keep the URI together. Hope you have better luck than I did. Not a tough act to follow, though, and I'll be rooting for you. Shep replied, his trademark smile making a brief, grim appearance. Jacobs returned to his smile and excused herself. She had work to do. has the courage. Eugene McCarthy was an odd fellow, a little awkward and uninviting at the best of times. In a moment of crisis, Chev expected the man to wilt, yet in this moment he had oddly stepped up to the plate, as much as he could anyway. As the Secretary of Agriculture attempted to respond onto the mass of new complaints about Chev's administration, McCarthy's office had turned into a mess of scattered papers, with McCarthy practically squeezed inside. It was this disheveled heap that Chev walked into. In the chaos of these last few months, the man felt right at home. McCarthy, his eyes sunken, loosely waved the president into the chair. Good to see you, Mr. President. These months, they feel like a test. I think I'm winning, but it feels like the load is killing me. Chef himself, worse for wear, nodded. I know, Eugene. I'm sorry to be putting something else on your plate. Chet placed a manila folder into the stack on McCarthy's desk. The farmers, it's not just that they hate us. Their hate fuels the anti-URI movement. We need to improve our relationship with them. As it stands, that thread's on the brink of snapping every day. If there's anything, and I mean anything you can do to fix this, you gotta pull the trigger. Don't get me wrong, I support the URA. It's good work. I've always said that. But I'm supposed to be an apolitical body. I can't just be cleaning up the president's messes. Still, I'll do everything I can to clean up your image with the farmers. I feel at home on the campaign trail anyway. And that, Mr. President, is the rough approximation of our geopolitical situation. The Secretary of State Kissinger said to his new boss, "It is in my opinion that our best course would be to continue our initiatives from the previous administration. We must continue striving for the autonomous Japan and to fight German influence wherever we can. If you have any special perspective on our foreign policy, I would like to hear it." Chet Morrison glanced up, reading Kissinger's eyes for the first time. No, Dr. Kissinger, that sounds all about right. I'll leave the foreign affairs in your capable hands. Kissinger gave a clipped nod, rising to leave. Wait, Chet said. I actually have one more thing I wanted to ask you. Kissinger turned beautifully. Yes? No, nice. Well, Maya wants me to play the Talos Principle on stream, so I'll keep that in mind if I can't snag a copy. I'm sure you heard all this hullabaloo about the URI bill, Shep said. Congress is trying to cut away President Hart's legacy, and press, they're hounding us, taking any chance they can to make us look weak. If you could just do something to get the press off us, that'd make a big help. Kissinger adjusted his glasses. As much as I could, Mr. President, I'm afraid I'm quite busy with the Cold War, he said. Besides, media relations are certainly not my area of expertise. I of course wish you luck in your domestic agenda. Without waiting for a dismissal, he bowed his head and left. Fucking Kissinger. Fucking turncoat. Luther Morrison Stenhouse. 2 couches at the Oval Office. Not a place for discussing the campaign tactics. Listen, no, the fuck Kissinger is unrelated to, is mostly unrelated. I've played hard before, don't worry. Kissinger when asked to be useful for 5 seconds. True. We're confident the Mutant Boys have it in them, Morrison asked, arm laying on the headrest of his couch. Of course, Shep, wouldn't doubt them for a second. If anyone can back us on this, it's the Union Man, but my one concern is civil rights folks. I'd really rather not have to wrangle them if I can manage it. Right, I understand, but their support's liable to prove pivotal, especially in a race close as this. What resources would you have with them, by the way? Ruther leaned back and gave his thought to Morrison's ideas. Well, we do have a connection with their leaders, just not much sway. We coordinated some marches in the past, but it's been fairly superficial for a while. Anyways, I can ask them, see if I can pull out some carrots with them, but it'll be a struggle. Morrison nodded. How about the Union Boys? How far can they go with this? Shep asked, a new wave of concern sitting within him. Ruther smiled and looked at Morrison. Shep, they were already setting up the first marches. Another wave of motion slapped Morrison as a suppressed smile grew over his face. Things may be going the right way. Might be going the right way for once. Senator McCarthy, what have you got for me? It's clear that to Shep that McCarthy had been Hard at work, per usual. He seemed tired and energized all at once, powered by whatever... I'll just skim this one, hold on. Well, I had an idea about it. Called up an advertising agency and got these printed. McCarthy's briefcase pulled out something out of it, slapping out Shep's desk. Pamphlets. Colorful pamphlets with graphs and plans explaining the URI benefits to rural communities. Shep picked one up and one design and rifled through it, admiring the graphics and arguments. It's nice, McCarthy. Punchy, clean, modern. This is good work. Shep got up and began to move around. Now the unpleasant part. I need you to know on the onset that this is your department's work. You have to sort out the distribution on these. I understand. I have a lot on my plate, but both the world pushback, I can get through this. He smiled faintly, but his face looked even smaller. I'm just happy to help. Kissinger strode into the Oval Office, trying. He hadn't exactly like Hart by the end. His idealism clouded his judgment, but he had been, in his own way, deserving Kissinger's respect. Morrison, though, the man was a timid simpleton. Kissinger could handle the timid simpletons just fine, except when they dragged him down with them. Apparently, his alleged boss was still trying to do. Morrison leaned forwards, failing to hide his nervousness. I really am sorry to bother you again, Dr. Kissinger, but the situation with the URI is really getting kind of desperate, and... As I said, Kissinger replied, the URI is out of my purview. I do wish you luck, but... Morrison slammed a fist down on his desk. It didn't exactly make Kissinger jump, but it projected down his throat. What do you think Phyllis Shapley would think of your purview? Morrison asked. Or Scoop Jackson? If the URI fails, the administration goes down. Now, I'm not asking you to directly intervene, but please, play to the press. Grapple for attention. We need more headline grabbers like the business with Japan. Kissinger found himself nodding. The approach being a fair point, and after all, American diplomacy would benefit from a certain level of renewed visibility. Very well, we can certainly step up efforts to hem in on the Reich's European sphere. Classic case of misdirection. Insolent ass. Yeah, no. Kissinger will be hit with a hammer. Dear Mr. Rustin, hello, I hope this letter reaches you. I've been trying to reach you in person at the funeral. I'm sorry you're not invited, nor otherwise disposed. I understand your discretion. I wish you had been able to meet Hart. I'm sure that two of you... He was at the funeral, though! True. This is not the subject to which I'm writing. Rather, my concern and my impetus lies in the gap he has left behind. My fellow cabinet members and I have spent the last few months in a state of perpetual crisis. Without Hart's oratory skills and congressional authority, we have been left to rely on Shep Morrison, who lacks the ability or personal strength to properly navigate this political system. Without his defense, Congress has come to pick the URI up, pick apart the Urban Renewal Initiative. Conservative and rural legislators have begun fighting against the core of the program, picking apart its protections, hoping to break apart its core administration. They lampoon it as an expensive waste, one which does not protect their constituencies. I will cut straight to the point, Mr. Rustin. I need your help. Without proper defense, the URI will... all the good it has done for the underprivileged America might be destroyed. Whenever you might visit Washington, I ask you might visit me in person. Your insight would be most valuable, even necessary in the moment of crisis. Yours, Jane Jacobs. Shep walked out the conference hall, and Kissinger finally helped join us. Farmers Garment Group. Alright, yeah, so farmers are on our side. Messenger can speak to the press for now. Suck. They're stupid. Yeah, the press is stupid. More important. I don't know if I can help you, Miss Jacobs. Jane Jacobs and Bayard Rustin's meeting was short and to the point. It's at a mediocre diner, part of Washington. Jacobs and Rustin exchanged many pleasantries and required no more from each other. Solicit conversation. This is a negotiation, or perhaps a desperate plea. You know I wouldn't ask for this if it wasn't important. Jacobs responded, still staring into her coffee. We need to find support in the minority communities if we have a chance of getting the URI through without some cuts. If you don't help now, it might destroy everything we've organized. That you've organized. I'm not saying it's worth saving, but you're not the problem here. It's Chep. In my days, Reverend King, I saw Morse as Louisiana. And no different than Wallace's Alabama or Papus' Arkansas. That man was committed, seriously committed to the institution of segregation. Now, he's looking for a bailout from the black community? President Morrison is asking for your help, Rustin. I am. Just come to the White House, please. Hear us out. We can work from there. After a minute of silence, Rustin finally nodded. We're not going to be able to stop the passage of the fucking bill. Oh, we don't need to. That'd be a waste of political power. You know, the Hart administration has done a lot for Black society. Bayard Rustin never planned on meeting Chep. Sure, he'd helped out harvest some useful reforms in cities, but this man was the Southern governor during the height of segregation. When Chep invited Rustin to meet with him and Jacobs, Rustin tried to come in with a good outlook. Few friends had described Chep as a reformer, after all, and he certainly soaked up the black vote during his time in New Orleans. And so far, the verdict remained decidedly negative. URI has touched a lot of urban minority communities, Chep continued. Hell, saved a lot of communities that even FDR wouldn't touch. Black folks got a lot of wins. A lot of wins. A lot of wins. Chep chuckled to himself. Now we're hoping to flip the table, so to speak. We need help from folks like you. Men who can organize minority communities of America to fight for their country. That sound good? Chep burst out his widest smile. Rustin took some care in his response. What makes you certain I'm going to say yes? Chep blurted out a response with a mix of confusion and indignation. Should I be thinking otherwise? Rustin turned to his friend Jane Jacobs, who appeared to be cringing in her seat. I think perhaps the matter is best handled between the two of us. President Morrison brings a certain southern charm to the White House. The fucking Judases in Congress. Fools. Morrison did not enjoy the West Wing. Behind the White House's stately exterior, the building was cramped. Staffers complained of rats and cockroaches, and it was a miracle that people still wanted to visit the building, let alone spend hours inside. Yet here Chep found himself in the private study long past working hours. Going through the studies he commissioned from Gallup, he never had a head for numbers, but the results were obvious. Conservatives were coalescing against the URI. In the name of reform, but liberal voters remained divided and disinterested. Focus groups showed rural voters up in arms about federal waste, and while urban voters were apathetic at best. He buried his head in his hands. There was a knock at the door. Chep, darling, it's getting late. The chef would very much like to serve dinner before he goes home. I thought you were going to that Coca-Cola thing. Oh, filming finished ages ago, First Lady Zsa Gabor glided through the room and leafed through the pages on Shep's desk. There was curiosity in her face. What is it that has you here so late anyways? Those awful brutes in Congress? Shep couldn't help but smile at that. Paul Exalt had once made the mistake of criticizing Zaza on the post, and she'd never forgiven him. Shep gestured his hand uselessly. The usual suspects are on the warpath, rounding people up, allowing attacks to me on the morning shows. There's real interest in Zaza's voice as she set down the papers. Darling, you know I've yet to find a talk show that doesn't want me as a guest. If you wanted, I could. She trailed off, but Shep could see the offer of help clearly. He gave a weak smile. So long as you can find time in your schedule. Orange. Finally, Rustin's the letter had arrived at the HEW main office. Jacobs typically remained composed in her time in government, but she had spent more time than she wished to admit fretting over Rustin's response. She had to stick her neck out to get him on her side. Him saying no would be devastating, and he had so many reasons to decline. By the time it arrived, she barely could find the patience to grab her pen knife before slicing it open. She looked over. A quick scan found the keyword help. She could finally breathe. After close reading, it was just remarkable how much he was promising. This is more concrete than just some advisory meetings. Rather, it was a plan to create a real campaign of support for the URI. Raise some urban black activists. Clearly, Rustin believed that the black community would agreed with his views on this issue. It wasn't just a favor. This was a major show of confidence from one of the largest civil rights leaders in America. Jacobs chuckled at the last line. Just as long as I never have to speak to your boss again. With a gentle touch, she placed the letter back in its envelope, filed it in her desk, pulled out a pen. Her first task was to write up a response. She started with the first word she could think of. Thank you. Oh. Body blow. Morrison here. Shep had answered the phone. Mr. President, I'm sorry, sir, but the bill passed a supermajority. I tried to get some of the friendly senators on board, but they would barely hear me out, let alone switch their votes. But I sounded deeply apologetic, well aware of what this meant to Morrison. The veto option, the last chance, was gone. We're saving Shep's marriage, despite the stream title. Shep squeezed his eyes closed. Damn, another failure. Another slap in the face must send it eager to tear everything he and so many others had worked for to pieces. Sitting in the Oval Office, phone in hand, he suddenly felt the loneliest he had ever in his life. He hung up after murmuring a goodbye to Baya. He had saved the cabinet, at least he had that, the president thought, as a headache come on. Sure, the URI is being ripped apart, but the ship is safe with SETI aside from that. What could any other president have done? Feel a part of charmed and austerity-mad Senate from hacking his ambitions down to size? Shep had certainly given his all, hadn't he? He was just cursed by circumstances, bad luck, and by the URI's enemies. Multiplying cooler by the day. Well, we'll get the next one. That clean for Gene. Call them hippies, Jeff. They're your supporters. But they fit the criteria. Found them? Suppose so, yes. Well. We'll reshuffle the agenda. Streets of New York buzzed, LA stirred, and Chicago shook. Even the southern cities had broken into protest once more. Rarely did they do so in support of the US government. Yet the deal between Rustin and Jacobs was paying off. The black neighborhoods had come out in support of the URI. Protesting to keep their rights as segments of white America seemed to turn against them. Organized by Rustin, the Marches for a Safer City got the world watching the urban streets. Their marches were lit by brand new lampposts, paid for with URI funds. Their paths were built to highlight the new housing developments where lower income families could find a home. Their marchers walked under new elevated trains which connected their neighborhoods, and over repaved streets that kept them safe. Their paths were a tour through the new American city, one designed for the camera crews that followed their every move. Through televisions across America, people far from city life watched for those months. Every American saw what Hart's initiative had created, and all the people it had helped. They might not have been fighting for Hart's legacy, but they were saving it all the same. Footage flashing on television. So Morrison reading. Earlier today, the senator of Massachusetts. There we go. Big things are happening. Big things are happening. Come on. Stop fucking telling me shit. I don't care. We're at the end of the game. Fuck it. We're just gonna let the notifications up here run. Fuck it. No, they're gonna annoy me. Sorry. I'm going back on my word immediately. They're gonna annoy me. Oh yeah, this will keep me busy at least. There we go, highways. Exactly, true. That's the goal here. Alright, have fun doing that. Sorry, every save will be built in. Collateral damage. This was a rough one, Mr. President. Privatized damn near most of the URI's public sector jobs. I doubt 1 in 10 survives if the public sector trims them down to the bare necessities. The stubbornness of conservatives on this topic nearly made Shep laugh at this point. Conservatives and deficit hawks in the Senate were putting up hundreds of thousands of jobs on the line. These weren't the pencil-pushing bureaucrats the right rhetorically targeted, but instead those who maintained and expanded America's infrastructure. Much more grown after President Hart's tenure. These workers gone, America's infrastructure would begin to American transportation arteries begin to atrophy. Shep nearly found it funny until Baya walked him through the Senate's disposition. The bill could still very well pass with a veto-proof majority, which wiped any hint of mirth from his face. He still had a job to do and a battle to fight. There were marginal senators, one who would appreciate the administration directing favors their way, or who'd appreciate the assistance during the campaigning season. These activists could also be useful if deployed properly, and of course these workers had themselves every incentive to fight for their livelihoods, as did every American who used America's roads, rails, or waterways. Thank you, Vice President. Thank you, Vice President Baya, he replied. Alright, coming out of his pondering. I'll start working on my way down this list, and you do the same. With enough elbow grease, I see at least 34 senators we can see stance. Baya nodded, leaving Shep to begin his task. That's more nays than yays. Dude. Doesn't get better than this. So I can say we have invested. We will be further investing in the Northeast Hawksbill Rail Project, President Morrison said. He looked back at the credit reporters. Live for the next question. Mr. President, a reporter whose name escaped Shep looked. Do you have any response to the Congress that will exalt its new Efficiency in Government Act? His criticism of the Hart administration's URI has certainly been harsh. Shep flashed a smile. I'm glad you asked, he said. Look, I respect Congressman Laxalt. I don't think Nixon would. He's a good man who loves his country, and I'm sure that we both want what's best for America, even if we disagree about the best way to achieve that. But I have to question what he and the budget hawks like him will hope to achieve. URI is a program that has improved the lives of millions of Americans, and we're going to defend it. But to be honest, I wish we'd move past these issues. It's no secret that we live in dangerous times. There's a war in the Middle East and tensions in Eastern Europe. The continued instability in Africa. Times like these, America needs to be united, marching forwards together. I invite Congressman Laxalt and his compatriots to turn away from divisive politics and stand together for a more peaceful world. Dr. Kissinger, for instance, has just visited a new movement in Russia to congratulate them on reunification. I'm more excited. Oh. I'm excited to talk about more ways we've achieved that with our new partner in the coming days. As the questions kept coming, Shep felt himself relax. He'd actually done a good job on that one, hadn't he? He could see the reporters nodding as he answered question after question. He came to a startling conclusion. This might actually work. It's a stumble. That's wonderful news. That's wonderful news, Vice President Baia. You tell the senators who stayed in our corner that they made the right choice. They have my deepest thanks. We need them again soon enough, and I'm sure they'll need more convincing next round. I still can't quite believe this. Neither can I, sir, and many congratulations to you. We went from an uphill battle to a clear victory. For all the conservatives huffing and puffing, this part of the URI is still standing, and they didn't even cross 51 votes. Shep, feeling a warmth growing within him, thanked Baia and hung up the phone. For the first time in a while, felt well and truly relaxed. Tens of thousands of Americans' jobs have been pressed. Kids would stay at their schools and keep their friends. Homes would be kept, and a mini tidal wave of human misery had been subverted. It hadn't been easy fighting off the privatization scheme, requiring all the arm twisting and speech-making and horse trading that he had in him. It had stretched his political abilities and the endurance to the breaking point. The stretch of campaigning he can only compare as similar to the most frantic parts of his presidential campaigns. It had all been worth it, though. Even if he knew the conservatives and deficit hawks in Congress would be back again with another attack on the URI when they regrouped. He would be ready and waiting. Knowing that he could ill afford to luxuriate in the victory, Shep left the Oval Office and began organizing with the Allies, preparing for the next defense of the URI, rather than be caught napping. Maybe a tour through the Midwest. Kissinger, you're going east. You are going to Russia. You will negotiate for us. Now the Red Army is communists. Congrats on reunification. I'm gonna go save the URI now. Let the bill come. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Chairman Shep is not afraid. Chairman Shep is not afraid. Fucking throw all the deregulation you can at me, man. I am not afraid. Chairman Shep is not afraid. Autographing. Shep rolled his eyes as soon as Vice President Baia pulled out a... Chairman Shep's Little Red Book. Bearing red lines and markers of draft legislation. What flavor of snake oil is in Congress today? Responsibility in Government Act. Monotone, I'm guessing you want the one-line summary? Please. Shep laid his hand limply, as if to pushing the papers away. Well, it mandates municipal audits of URI funding. Typical. With URI money being received. Baia threw papers on the Shep's desk, a frustrated grunt. It's circular bullshit. When the audits are done, they'll show less money being spent on programs. And instead of blaming the audits, our critics are gonna say we're handing our sweethearts contracts or handing our sweethearts contracts or something. Shep rubbed his face, just trying to ease his flabbergasted expression. The cynicism in Washington was just as petty as it had been in Louisiana, except with millions of dollars in livelihoods on the line. Why can't Congress just get with the program? Get with the program. Get with the program, hippie! Program these nuts. Got him. Common sense. And some good news in the Senate. That Responsibility and Government Act I was talking to you a while back, just heard back that it's going to stagnate in committee. Vice President by self-satisfied voices. Music chips here. About time. I don't know why they expected that to pass. I'll change the fact they're swimming upstream. By caution. We're swimming upstream, but I'll take whatever luck we can get. Chep would not, Chep would probably support fucking MacArthur or whatever. The federal government. Yeah, well, if this is the best that they can manage, I think we can expect a bit more luck to come our way. Chep swilled in his chair, turning to face the Rose Garden. We might even be able to pass some legislation of our own. Make our mark on America. But I'm getting ahead of myself. As I didn't play Kaiser Redux. True. Chep would support, would fucking support Chairman fucking Hart. It was late in the White House. Chep had let many of his staff go home early to enjoy the day, partly in an effort to win their loyalty, and partly so that he himself could escape the confines of the West Wing. But it seemed the work never ended. Gary Moriarty, a junior member of the press office, slid into the Oval Office as the president packed his bag. Sir, I was hoping to talk to you about something urgent. Chep tried his best to hide his dislike for the gangly, overeager press officer. He was some political donor's nephew, some granted a gig onto some lame duck as a way of padding out his resume. He went up Chep's ass as he was sworn in, coming in unannounced, swallowing his distaste. Swallowing his distaste. There's Chep gestured for the boy to continue. You know, it's, Miss Morrison, the First Lady. I'm sure you've seen it. You're so smart, but she's been all over the television the past week. She's been talking about the URI. She's talking about bills and everyone at the Oval Office appreciates the attempt, but she's taken up a lot of attention. She's not using the talking points when we try hard to appeal. What's she saying? What's she saying, Gary? The boy fidgeted in his suit that Chep knew was more expensive than the most of the pieces he had in his wardrobe combined. She, called Paul Lexalt and the other URI reformers a stupid man's idea of a smart man. Then she said Lexalt was buried so deep inside Howard Hughes' pocket that she was surprised he was able to find his way to work each morning. Chep Morrison laughed so hard he began to cry. The press officer stood uncomfortably. It was not the reaction he'd wanted. Chep tried to regain his composure. Alright, I'll talk to Zaza about cooling some of the language. Privately, the president made a note to watch a few of the recordings himself. So good. As Chep Morrison read through the latest bill from Congress, he found himself conflicted. The legislation was called the Workers' Welfare Act. At first, it appeared like a very mixed bag. It didn't repeal any of the URI's new welfare provisions per se. Instead, it simply bound up the program in voluminous red tape. In order to access their benefits, workers would have to show proof they were employed, not using drugs, and that their children were in school, and that they were married, and on and on and on. Each individual restriction seemed reasonable on its face, but as the pages turned, concern mounted within Chep. Stringing enough requirements together, enough demands for proof and paperwork, and the number of people eligible for the programs would shrink accordingly. Another part of him, less charitable, rejoiced at these restrictions. Why should public funds go to criminals on drugs who wanted their addictions paid for by John Q. taxpayer? Shouldn't the government be encouraging marriage, work, and sobriety? Yet he knew deep down that was not the intent behind the bill. Rather than repeal this section of the URI, its critics would rope it off with red tape. Its program is a tantalizing enticement that many Americans who, unfortunately, will never be able to see the program's fruits. Disgust rising in him, he pushed the bill away from him. Another attack on the URI was in progress, and he would have to be ready to bat it away. Hopefully senators would see the downsides of the law, and if they did not, he would hopefully at least retain the ability to veto the bill. And they do! They do! Why is Chep... He's not bad. He's just... No one does it better than Mr. Divorce. No one does it better than Mr. Divorce. With the limousine being turned out back of the White House onto the dark streets of Washington, in the back sat Chet Morrison and Zaza Gabor on their way to see a play at the newly opened Kennedy Center. I've actually been to the Kennedy Center. Neither of them had any interest in it, but for Zaza it was a chance to be seen. For Chet it was a chance to escape. As the White House vanished from view, Chet felt the tension in his shoulders release. Zaza, listen, I had someone in the press office complain to me about your press appearance on the URI. Illumined by the passing street light, Chet saw his wife scowl. Well, no, he renounced segregation, he's fighting for Hart's legacy, so I think that makes him good, even if he's not always the best person. What stupid bastard was that? I swear, these people you have, they swarm around like gnats, getting that way but never helping. Getting in the way but never helping. She waved imaginary insects at her face. The papers loved it. The audiences loved it. None of it was true. He put his hands up in surrender. I know. Honestly, Zaza, I found it very funny. It's just the press office, Washington, they have no sense of humor. Stupid bastards. You know how I come up with those lines myself? No help. These awful men expect me to go out and perform for them, and they give me no lines to work with. I'm not a clown. I'm a goddamn fucking professional. Hate to say I know that feeling, said Shep, who was strange how the similarities had never hit him before. Now Zaza had been subjected to as much cruelty as him. He shook his head. You know what? Fuck the bastard. You know the press better than anyone, Zaza. And if you want help, I want you out there. As the car came to a stop, Shep could see his wife looking at him with, if not love, then at least respect and appreciation. The two of them were partners, outsiders against the world. Suppose that means it's showtime, darling. Put Zaza on the press. Fuck you, Kissinger. Hot dog! Burt's by put his hand over the phone's receiver and spoke to the others gathered in the Oval offices. The Workers' Welfare Act failed to even pass. The conservatives are in disarray and pointing fingers at each other for failing to bring across the finish line. That will be seen it again. This is wonderful, Jacob said, clapping her hands happily. She expected the worst in the Senate, but it seemed the URI's enemies dropped the ball very badly, and the URI's welfare provisions would survive for another day. Alone amid the celebration, Chet Morrison worried. He knew many Americans were perfectly open to restrictions upon access to welfare. Plenty of hardworking citizens did not like the idea of public funds going to anyone who could fill out a form. He was one of them, but the mood of the country, it didn't seem like the best move to celebrate this victory when it could so easily backfire. Jacobs raised a quizzical eyebrow at him, prompting him for an explanation of his silence. I just worry the conservatives will hang any welfare fraud around our necks, he explained. The bill has problems, but it's trying to deal with serious issues. I see your point, Mr. Morrison, but these provisions of the URA are popular. If we want them to work properly, then we can't have all these conditions and restrictions placed upon them. Jane Jacobs nodded. When the storm passes, Mr. President, and conservative energy fades, the program will stand as a keystone of the URI. Its survival is an absolute positive. Another piece of Hart's legacy survives. Yeah, no, something I got told to me about Pennsylvania is, you have, what was it? Philadelphia in the west, east, Pittsburgh in the west, and Alabama in the middle. I cannot comment how accurate that is, but it is what I've heard. Right. Poor Democrats. Ugh. I guess they've been replaced by progressives. Huddled within the narrow walls of the White House, Shep rifled through the newest bill. He'd been briefed on it a few minutes earlier, and Shep thought he'd take a moment to look through it himself. The proposed bill was weak, even by the standards of the EU anti-URI movement, devoid of any clever workarounds in previous bills. The Transport Assessment Act was a naked set of cuts and to the precautions and regulations that Hart had established during the oil crisis. The energy crisis over, supposedly there was no need for these frivolous protections. Shep knew it wasn't an attack on Hart, or Jacobs, or even himself. The URI was the target. These men had a host of incentives, ideological, economic, and careerist. Messy and taken on of beliefs and motives which Shep had long given up analyzing. Yet he couldn't help but see it as low. No matter what they screamed on the television, these men had to understand that the reason these crashes were vital. They had seen the oil crisis play out all across the globe. Even after watching others fall, they were still having to hack at the ropes beneath their feet. Shep sighed. He was just one man. He had to do what could be done to prove the worth of his and Hart's work. What comes will come. Nothing to do but wait. I have an opinion on Philadelphia despite never being there. Fuck it. I formed that opinion just now. Today's night fails. Shep had waited for hours for this phone call. When it came with some news he had been praying for. The bill had failed, Baya told him. Failed. Couldn't even get 50 senators. The public and the Senate understood that URI's crucial energy protections were something America needed. Huh. Interesting. Because you accidentally forgot the space between something with a period. You gotta consider them. You gotta consider our momentum now. I told Shep in the midst of their shared euphoria. This one has got the opposition eating crow. America's telling us they have faith in us again. Faith and heart. Think of the things we could do with this kind of headway. Shep did consider it, but not for long. Appreciate the attitude, but I gotta be honest. I just can't keep staying up like this. I'm a spent man, Bye. At least for now. You're gonna need to give me some time. Two said their goodbyes, and Shep got up from his seat. The last light of dusk was receding from the office. Shep could finally go home. Even the president needs his rest. Television. I fucking love this focus. Just television. It's done. The conservatives have cocked up all their chances of meaningfully repealing the URI. Television. It's so fucking goofy. I love it. I really do love it. Cocked up was misspelled. Literally unplayable. Uninstalling. This pass fucking sucks. Oh my god. Can you believe we fucking listen to these hacks? My god. It's an emoji. Kissinger's going east again. Emoji movie. I don't know, you'd have to ask them. There's supposed to be an event. We'll wait until 1975 for the event. If it's, common turn associate, member of the solar vine. Playing both sides here. God. Just taking some goofy screenshots. There's really supposed to be an event. Decision? Yes. Oh, our final endeavor. We had previously governed the Hard Administration, but now that chapter must draw to a close as we become our own government. There it is. Democratic leader Hubert Humphrey found himself half walking, half running through the halls of the White House, pushing through the scores of aides on his way to President Chet Morrison's side office. When he finally swung open the doors, gleefully presenting the latest Gallup polling like a Roman might present an eagle, he saw Chet and Birch Bias staring at their own reports. Have you? Chet looked up. The polls? We sure have. Hubert, I mean, Christ, I was just telling Bias, The President is quite excited, as you can see, said Birch Bias with a mischievous smile. I think we all hope to staunch the bleeding vis-a-vis the URI, but it seems like a 10-point increase among Union voters, 15% increase in support among likely urban voters, roared Chet with uncharacteristic gusto, 3% increase among rural voters. He slapped his hand against the page of the report, smiled brimming. You know what this means? Neither Hubert nor Bias said anything. The president was clearly having a moment. We got to raise the conservatives' throats. The bastards thought they had us with these numbers. With these numbers, the do-nothings in Congress won't have a prayer. Won't have a prayer in the world to destroy the URI. The stupid, rotten bastards. Humphrey cleared his throat, but he couldn't repress a smile. Not the language I would use, but yes. Let's talk next steps. There we are. Philip Hart was sitting in his office, reading through a daily briefing. When Shep knocked on the door? You have a moment, Philip? Of course, Shep. Anytime. How can I help you? Said the president, gesturing for the chair in front of the desk. It was hard not to notice a pep in the vice president's step, the return of a certain energy and enthusiasm that had been absent for so many months. So I've been working on this whole America thing for some time. Been crunching the numbers the eggheads got in the office, you know? Chet began. Hart tried to resist the urge to raise an eyebrow at the man's obvious excitement. Well, I don't have any words for it. Looks like a goddamn thing solving. It's making us more money than it's costing us. The American people are actually buying this goddamn car. Now Hart really did raise his eyebrows. Really? You mean they're really? I'd love to take all the credit for it, Philip. I really would. But you know as well as I that I thought this is a cockamamie idea from the start. Somehow, this thing's looking like the biggest success since the Model T. Hart put down the briefing and turned to his chair, toward the wall. Truth be told, even he had been skeptical of the American from the start. For making money and the consumers happy, there'd be no budget fights in the Congress, no painful sacrifices, thanks to his cabinet's ability to negotiate with the manufacturers. Philip Hart had proven just how powerful the federal government could be. Hart wakes up in a cold sweat. Fucking dude passed out in his office. It had been a long work night in the White House. 5 o'clock had come and gone, with few staffers departing from their offices. As the sun set and the late night shows began, Shep and Birch Bias found themselves huddled together in the Oval. The Indianian took out his watch. Mr. President, I've come to enjoy our chats, but if I'm not home, so I think Marvell and the kids might kill me. I really have to go. Shep blinked, amazed himself that he willingly stayed in the Oval Office so long. Of course, Birch. I want to finish up a few things here, but you should get back. Send your wife my love. The Vice President mouthed the thanks. He began to put on his suit coat when Shep spoke again. Before you go, Birch, I want to say thank you. I don't think you can ever know how much I appreciate everything you've done. It's been an honor, sir, Birch said with a smile, then he left. Shep found himself alone again. After a few minutes of silence, he picked up the telephone. There was a short ringing before a woman's voice answered. She seemed happy. She could hear the sounds of laughter in the background. Hello, this is Jane Jacobs? Jane, it's Shep. Yeah, a minute? Not long ago, she might have brushed him off. There was a pause, where she said, Of course. With these URI fight out of the way, I've been thinking a lot about Philip and how we can better preserve his legacy. You always had a better brain for this stuff than me. Do you think you could help me come up with some ideas? I think I could come up with a few ideas, Mr. President. We're going a little long tonight. Probably. Proceedings. Birch Bias sat at the head of the Senate chamber. He did little to hide his obvious satisfaction as he leaned into the microphone. The Senate will come to order. Factions of stodgy men separated from their discussions and hobbled to their desks. Birch smiled as a group of conservatives and nationalists, obviously upset with the day's proceedings, scowled and slumped behind their desks. A Democratic senator rose and approached the podium on the floor. For what purpose did the gentleman rise? Mr. President, I sent to the desk a privileged report in the committee for rulings under the filing under the rule. By adjusted to the Senate clerk. The clerk will report the tally. Report to accompany Senate Bill 1316, an act providing for creation of a presidential library system commemorating the past, present, and future presidents. Amending. The title went on as Baya rotated back and forth in the seat. Yes, the bill was a bit hokey. A series of expenditures to create civic temples to the likes of John F. Kennedy, Philip Hart, and other presidential stalwarts. Yes, it was not a bill that would transform lives or remake America so much as preserve the accomplishments of the past for generations to come. But seeing the anger of conservatives, prospect of a temple to Chet Morrison and Philip Hart made it all worth it. There was debate on the floor, but there was no question of which way the vote could go. 69, baby! 69! Nice. Fucking nice. Fucking nice. Fucking nice. It was quiet on Claver Street. The first long quiet that Janie Hart had enjoyed in a long time. Kids were finally left the house, returned to their own lives, families, and careers. The reporters, so relentless in the first days after her husband's passing, had stopped camping outside her home. All that remained was her and her husband's security detail, both enjoying the chance to be idle, blissfully detached from Washington. No, it said she's... What? Oh, it's because she's fucking with things. Then, without warning, there was a ring on the telephone. Janie let it ring once, then twice, before she raised herself in the den, the place where Philip had spent his final few days, and towards the kitchen. True patriots in control. Hello, this is the White House switchboard. Patching through President. Please hold. Said a young woman. There was a bug. It's the Chep on the line. Hello, Janie. It's Chep. President. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. Janie repressed an awkward smile. Not even after everything. It was remarkable how awkward Chep. Even after everything, it was remarkable how awkward Chep could be. Not at all. How can I help you? I'm not sure if you're watching the TV right now, but I want to let you know that the Presidential Libraries Bill passed. There's a pause. I wanted to be the first. I wanted to be the first to let you know that we're gonna preserve Philip's legacy. Another pause. There'll be a whole building, an entire campus if you want, to make sure everyone knows of his integrity. Janie closed her eyes and gave a sad smile. Thank you, Chep. That means a lot. Really, I know things were hard in the last few days, but Phil really thought the world of you. I hope you know that. There's another silence. This time, Janie thought she could hear someone choking down a sob. Thank you, Janie. If you haven't picked a location for the library yet, I have some ideas, Chep. We have denied the inevitability of hard times. Final act of the Hart administration is now available. Nice. Took everything we had in us, along with the help of a few friends, but we survived the onslaught and made our mark in Washington. There's just one more journey left for us, one last chance to honor a truly great president. Chet Morrison promised himself he would not cry at the groundbreaking of the Philip Hart Presidential Library. He asked Zaza to play interference if she noticed his face quivering. Hell, he even asked Baya to intervene if he got emotional during his address. To their infinite credit, both had agreed. And so, the president found himself... standing behind a stage that jutted against the banks of the Detroit River, trying to keep his emotions in check, as the mayor delivered his remark. Hello, Chep! Hello, Chep! Said a voice. Chep looked up from his note cards to see Jane Jacobs in a smooth black dress. How's the last minute speech writing going? Shep smiled. It was the first time either of them had seen each other in person since the end of the URI repeal effort. Jane had kept her department while Shep had kept at the White House. It was easier that way, less friction. Ah, the usual. Today was a happy moment. In dedicating this library, we honor Philip, but we also honor the best in our country. That kind of thing. Sounds like you got it handled. I look forward to the address. They looked at one another. While Shep doubted they would ever be friends, he and Jane Jacobs had formed some kind of accord. Long gone were the days of sniping and cabinet meetings. They respected another, and they'd done this in the work they'd done for Philip. They'd fought side by side and emerged stronger for it. There were claps from beyond the stage. Any moment now, Shep would be called to deliver his remarks. He gave polite thanks, and revealed himself to the assembled crowd. He turned back to Jane. Now we've preserved Hart's legacy. Think we could build one of our own? The secretary smiled. Yes, Shep. I really think we could. We cannot shoot the farmers. It was strange to find himself surrounded by so many party leaders. After being rejected by them for so long, there was Humphrey Boggs, Mansfield, even Ted Kennedy had found a way to saunter into the Watergate Hotel conference room, giving the president an awkward handshake and a grimace before sitting at the end of the table. There were a few moments of small talk about their kids and wives for Humphrey cleared his throat. Mr. President, first of all, I wanted to tell you that well done on the speech in Detroit the other day. I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend it, but it sounds like you gave a very moving address. Shep gave a small smile. He liked Humphrey, but there was a part of him that was unsure if he was being patronized or not. But what we want to come here is to discuss the future, the party's future, said Hale Boggs with a look of importance. I'll confess to you that many of us were skeptical when you first came to office. You had big shoes to fill. But you've done a better job than any of us could have imagined. You really... They want you to run for president, Shep, Ted Kennedy said in a New England nasal that a Senate seat in Colorado had done little to erase. He looked strangely calm. As if he'd come to begrudgingly accept the logic. If you run, you'll be the nominee. Shep looked up at them and folded his hands. For the first time since arriving in Washington, he'd been truly accepted. This meeting was the fulfillment of a lifetime of work, and yet, no. Shep shook his head. This office ain't for me. I served my time, I've done my part, but I'm ready to step off the stage. But, Shep laughed. What's the old saying? If I get drafted, I will not run. If nominated, I will not accept. Heart and Soul /TTT 3/Unfinished Business America team, thank you for playing through good old Hart and Shep. Thank you, and have a good day. The winds of progress sweep across the United States, from New York to San Francisco, from San Antonio to Juneau. America's cities stand the full life and vitality. Their people bustle along well-paved roads and go to work at shining factories and offices. They enjoy leisure and travel great distances, ready to see where the road takes them. In these ways, Philip Hart and Shep Morrison leave America as a transformed nation, better for their leadership. Of course, not every challenge has been defeated. War remains, bigotry remains, pain and human suffering still dot the globe. Now these monsters can be defeated, not permanently. The torch of liberty seems to burn brighter than ever against the dark horizon. America stands ready for the challenges ahead. Alright, hold on. I gotta find myself in here. Hold on. There I am, chat! There I am! There I am! Is your name on here the same as... I don't know your Discord name. Look. I'd love to, like, search through the, thing. Like, I'm sorry. I feel lightheaded from all that voice acting. My throat's killed me. And I got a redo stream tomorrow, which means more voice acting. Not as much as this, mind you, but, like, you know. Dear Lord, dude. I set myself up with a fucking gauntlet. Farewell, Patriots. It has been real fun doing this. I love Heart. I'm probably gonna play another Heart game on my own just to actually do a taunt. Like, yeah, no, a lot of fun was had. Hope you all enjoyed it. I know I did. We've gone longer than I usually do. So I'm gonna go head out. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope to see you tomorrow and next week. See you guys later. Bye.